but James won't admit it. He refuses to believe queer theory destabilizes normativity, gender binary, and the nuclear family. James blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him, creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy. He used to believe in something, what happened? Mills for liberty. Gnostic sex cult, building his own world. A Gnostic sex cult, unhinged from reality, totally lost in. What can we do but mock him relentlessly? It's not a Gnostic sex cult, James. No, it's not. Stop lying to your audience. No, it's not. It's not Gnostic, James. Mary Nardini tells us queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. Catch up, James. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialist knows capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. Whoa. The socialist knows capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's capitalism. To pocket all that money from the mills for liberty. The left hates capitalism, but James won't admit it. He refuses to believe queer theory stabilizes normativity, gender binary, and the nuclear family. But James blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him, creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy. To believe in something, what happens for liberty? Gnostic sex cult, building his own world. Gnostic sex cult, unhinged from reality, he's totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly? clever line. These are the four goals of the woke. Embedded in actions, words they invoke. From pushing its weight amongst his dreams in the dance of power, scheme and scheme. In every move, dirt and the gleams. Remember, nothing's ever as it seems. So, this will never stop. Gain power, stabilize, bring capitalism into democracy. Utopia, that's what they want, that's what they want. Abolish capitalism. These are the four goals of the woke. Embedded in action, words they invoke. From pushing its weight amongst his dreams in the dance of power, scheme and scheme. In every move, dirt and the gleams. Remember, nothing's ever as it seems. So, this will never
Hello, fellow Gnostic sex cultists. I hope you're all having a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. Welcome to The Cult. The Cult is a show that I stream at 5 p.m. Monday through Friday on this here YouTube channel, on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, and on Rumble, where we talk about the culture war. We do deep dives mostly into the far left. Sometimes we dabble in the right and other things, but we focus mostly on the far left that is controlling the cultural revolution in this country. Kazmar just said, just finished listening to podcast number 52. Great job, Carlin. So happy to continue this journey with you. Thank you, Kazmar. What Kazmar is referring to is if you head over to the Substack, which of course is Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. You will see the latest post is episode 52 of the Actively Unwoke podcast. Now, I have two podcasts on my Substack, the Actively Unwoke podcast and the Inner Circle podcast. The reason they're two podcasts is that the Actively Unwoke podcast is free, and the Inner Circle podcast is a premium podcast that is just for supporters. There's a little bit of a free preview with each episode, so you know what I'm going to talk about. And then we go into the members only section, where you get, if you sign up for $8 a month, $80 a year on my Substack, you get a special link that you can use to sync the premium podcast with your podcasting platform of choice. And then I go into really, I give you all the dirty on the subscriber only Substack, the Inner Circle. So you can subscribe to that. Excuse me. By heading over to the Substack, the Actively Unwoke podcast just says podcast. For some reason, I should probably change that at some point. The Inner Circle podcast is a separate thing, but I've been doing a lot of podcasting lately. Hang on, I need to cough again. You know how you get like that tickle in your throat? As soon as it's inopportune to have like a tickle in the back of your throat, then you have to cough to get the tickle to go. That's, you know. Anyway, I'm really doubling down on podcasts because I recently surveyed my community and I said, do you want more written articles? Do you want more podcasts, or do you want more videos? Like, what is the most helpful for you? And of course, there were like people answered all three, of course. Like, some people wanted written, some people wanted videos, some people wanted podcasts, but overwhelmingly people wanted more podcasts. And so, you know, it's not as though I'm going to stop doing written articles. Of course, I do a ton of written articles. There's a huge archive of written articles on the Substack. So people who want written articles have no shortage of content. Like there are tons of them on the Substack. But what I really didn't do a lot of last year, I wanted to do more of it, was podcasting. And so now I'm shifting gears and I'm doubling down on podcasting. And so if people want more of that, I'm happy to give it to them. So we're really kind of reactivating those podcasts. You can find the podcasts on iTunes, Spotify, all major podcasting platforms. You can find all that information over on the Substack. So you've got links to Apple Podcasts. I don't know why it doesn't have a link to Spotify, but it is in Spotify. And if you go into the post, not only do you get the podcast, the audio of it yourself, but you also get show notes. I can put videos in it. I can basically write an article and do a podcast version of the article. So if you want to go to the Substack to see the receipts and to see the images and to see the videos, all that stuff will be available. And how could I resist spilling the tea on James Lindsay blocking dozens of people in my community because they correctly defined queer theory, said that queer theory is an attack on capitalism via attack on the gender binary and the nuclear family, both of which are concepts that the left believes uphold capitalism. And we, I think, very nicely and very cordially, much more cordially than we could have been, mind you, went into James's chat as he was premiering his Gnostic Queer Theory Sex Cult Bullshit podcast on Monday and simply, delivered some accurate information to his audience that maybe his audience would find useful. And in the process of doing that, we took over James's entire chat. We owned the chat because no one on James's chat was engaged. I was rather surprised about that. I was really shocked at how easy it was just to completely take it over. I hope people were paying attention because you guys were dropping some truth bombs after truth bomb after truth bomb. It was great. And James thanked us for delivering this information that he claims he wants his audience to have by blocking everyone. And if you guys want to see the receipts of what James blocked people for, I have all the screenshots from the chat because we recorded the chat, because James deleted everything from the chat, except for people calling us faggots. So I think it's a little odd that in James's land, it's okay to call people a faggot, which I don't use that word. I don't like that word. To be very clear, I'm only using it because factually, James's audience called us faggots, and James left that up in the chat. But anyone who said the word capitalism was banned, literally. You're not allowed to say capitalism on New Discourse's YouTube channel. You'll get banned for it. So you can see all the receipts for yourself. And the reason I wanted to do a podcast about this is because I think it is very, very revealing the things that you cannot say on James Lindsay's platform. James Lindsay will block you for saying that queer theory, the goal of queer theory is to abolish capitalism. James Lindsay will block you for saying that capitalism created the gender binary, which put men in the workplace, women in the home, doing the unpaid labor of raising the next generation of proletarian workers in the nuclear family. He will block you for saying that parental rights are a form of private property under capitalism, according to the far left. He will block you for talking about the Mary Nardini gang and how the Mary Nardini gang explicitly says in Towards the Queerest Insurrection, which is basically the queer Marxism activist manifesto, that queer liberation necessitates the annihilation of capitalism. James doesn't want to admit any of this. He will literally block you for saying it. And I think it's important for people to know that. Yes, the woke right. That's what we're talking about today. Because I'm not the only one that has a problem with this. I'm not the only one who has a problem with this. There have been some people lately, and I gotta hand it to Jack Posobiec. Now, Jack Posobiec and I have had our interactions. Jack Posobiec took my journalism from the Socialism 2023 conference, where I recorded the president of the American Library Association saying that libraries should be sites of Marxist organizing. He took that without crediting me and used it in a discussion with Kirk Cameron in order to sell books. Now, when that happened, I was not happy about it at all because, quite frankly, the only way that independent journalists actually are able to recoup expenses for the thousands of dollars that I had to shell out to go to that conference, to go undercover for 3 days, to actually get that on tape, which no one else got. I had to pay for all that out of pocket. And I'm sorry, if you have major influencers taking your work and using it to shill their own books rather than giving credit to the people who got it. And I honestly didn't care that he was shilling books. I cared that he didn't give me credit for it. You know what? Because people deserve credit for their work. Okay. This is how people know about my journalism. This is how people fund my journalism. It's just the way it goes, guys. And so I was a little pissed about that. But the thing of it is that sometimes the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I actually don't consider Jack Posobiec necessarily to be my enemy, to be honest. And Jack Posobiec and this other guy, Joshua, who we're going to be talking about in a second, have written a book about the secret history of the communist revolution in America and they're trying to get people to fight back against it. And so, you know what? This is what adults do. Jack Posobiec and I've had my disagreements with how he conducts himself. But if you are an adult And if you actually care about solving a problem, then you put your personal bullshit aside and you align with other people who are actively trying to solve the problem. And you just have to be adults and do it, man. Not everyone has to be best friends. We don't all have to hang out. I actually have hung out with Jack Posobiec. Like in real life, he's a nice guy. He really is. Like in real life, he is a nice guy. But you don't have to be best friends with the people that you align with who have the same goals as you. And adults understand that. And so we're now taking our misgivings about Jack Posobiec stealing my journalism in order to sell books. Water under the bridge. Because you know what? Jack Posobiec is actually out there trying to get people to do things in the real world. And you guys know that one of my great consternations with the conservative right is that they don't effing do anything. And that they talk about all the problems and they profit off of all the problems and they make money selling books and doing podcasts and selling merch about all the problems. And one of my great, just like the things that have had me beating my head against the wall for damn near years has been the fact that no one actually wants to go out and do something. And so I basically sunk back into my little hole on the internet where I was like, you know what? I'm going to teach people as much about the language as I possibly can. Yeah, Scott Pressler is literally out there alone. Sometimes the right has one activist. One. That's it. Scott Pressler. There are no other activists on the right. And it's just been like maddening to me. And so if Jack Posobiec wants to encourage conservatives to actually get out there and fight the left, you know what? We're friends again. I don't give an F if I like you or not. I don't give an F what's happened in the past. If Jack Posobiec wants to take James Lindsay to task for James Lindsay's gatekeeping bullshit and call him the woke right on Twitter over and over and over and over and over again, Jack, I'm virtually extending a hand. We will have your back, bro. And as evidence of that, guess what? Our friend Stony Baloney, who is Human Centipede in the chat, and I know he'll be along shortly. I think he's in a meeting right now, but he will be joining us shortly. Jack actually featured the one, the only Stony Baloney in this video today. I was so proud. I was so happy about it. I was like, oh, Stony Baloney's going to usurp me. I love it, though, because Stony Baloney is on point. He's doing a great job. Stony Baloney has been really digging into the queer Marxist literature that we've been discussing. Not the literature, like the queer Marxist, like subculture propaganda stuff, the zines, the communiques. He's been doing a great job in the Discord, putting stuff for me to read for the Inner Circle podcast when I'm going through and analyzing the queer Marxist literature. We've been doing that on this channel sometimes because what we're discovering is the queer anarchist literature, the anarcho-communist subculture stuff that most conservatives don't even know about. I would venture to guess Jack Posobiec doesn't even know about this stuff. Stony Baloney can teach him. How great is that? But like this anarcho-communist subculture, that the literature that's being created in that subculture is so much more influential of what the queer Marxist left is doing. And we know that because we spent all this time listening to their trainings, and the same language that's showing up in the trainings is coming from the queer anarchist subculture literature that has been going on for about 30 years in this underground place that rarely sees the light of day. And so that's what we're digging into. Stony Baloney's doing a great job. Yes, Stony Baloney, the jester we need. The troublemaker we need. He has found he fits in perfectly for our community, and I love it. I love it. Yeah, I strongly doubt Jack Posobiec even knows this stuff exists. But you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Because Jack Posobiec is encouraging conservatives to go out and do shit. He can learn about this stuff if he wants to. We'll see if that holds. So this is one of the things we're going to do today, guys. We're going to watch this. We're going to talk about the woke on the right. I've got a whole bunch of stuff pulled up. Not that. Well, actually, this is an example of woke on the right. I've got basically a mishmash of content that we're going to be watching today. Everyone get ready for just like, this is going to be like a smorgasbord of content. It's going to be basically if you went to a restaurant and you ordered like a whole bunch of appetizers and you just get to have a little bit of everything. Is everyone cool with that? We're not going to do a full-on deep dive into stuff today, but we're going to do a little bit of a bunch of stuff. Well, mostly it's going to be on Jack Posobiec, but so I've got this clip from Andrew Clavin in trigonometry that I want to play for you guys because that is definitely woke on the right. We've got this whole Twitter thread to read from James Lindsay because Jack Posobiec and James Lindsay have been fighting for like 5 days about woke on the right, and Jack Posobiec is going right at James Lindsay and calling him woke right, and James Lindsay is like, I cannot possibly be woke right, and let me write a long Twitter thread intellectualizing about how I cannot be woke right. So we're going to read that Twitter thread. That's going to happen. We're going to look at Carrie's response because, of course, Carrie, of course, has to take the side of James Lindsay. She has to, and I have to make fun of this. It is so fucking predictable of this grifting, fake Christian cunt to do this that I just have to, and you guys have to allow me this moment. I know I shouldn't, but I'm going to. Because of Carrie, I have run out of fucks to give years ago, and we're gonna talk about that. Yep, of course, Carrie has to kiss the ass of James Lindsay. Carrie's feelings too long didn't read. Exactly. You guys understand. I know you do. So we'll read that. We're gonna watch the clip of Jack Posobiec and his co-writer Joshua. And actually, so I'll show you this. This is Joshua. That's not actually a good. There. That's much better. Much better. This is the guy that wrote the book, the new book, with Jack Posobiec about. It's called Unhuman. It's about like the secret history of the communist revolution in the United States. Guess what? Breaking news. I've just been DMing with Joshua, and Joshua's going to come and join us for a live chat next Wednesday at 3 p.m. So a couple hours early, but we are actually, this is going to be great for you guys to get introduced to him and to hear his perspective with Jack. And he's going to come and talk to us about the new book, and we're going to get to ask him questions. And maybe it's a good opportunity to share some information with him about what we've been doing and what we've been finding. We can actually have a dialogue about this because, again, this is the guy that helped Jack write that book. He's going to know his stuff, and he has agreed to come on the channel at 3 p.m. And he has his own issues with James Lindsay. Apparently, James Lindsay blocked Joshua because James Lindsay tweeted something that he said Joshua did something that he didn't do, and Joshua corrected him and was like, I didn't do that. And then James Lindsay blocked him for it. So that's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to that. But that's not all. That's not all. We also have this clip from Jack yesterday. It's like a half-hour thing where he's talking about the woke right in shambles. We'll watch that just to get our full sense of it. Of course, we need to celebrate our hero, Stony Baloney, who Jack Posobiec has been retweeting over and over and over and over and over again because Stony Baloney he's playing this so perfectly. He's in Jack's replies and he's giving Jack the keys to the kingdom. He's saying, yes, Jack, we agree with you. Here's why. And then Jack Posobiec is retweeting it. And of course, here he is. The man of the hour, the hero of the day, human centipede, Stony Baloney. The hero we need. The Groip, well, we're not going to talk about that. I'm not on the Groiper side on this one, okay? The Groipers, like, sometimes the Groipers don't have perspective. And right now, I'm on Team Jack, but I'm also on Team Nick, okay? I'm on everyone's team. I'm even starting to be on Team Milo, because if you guys haven't seen Milo Yiannopoulos' return to Twitter, it's fucking hilarious. And so, like, I'm on everyone's team. I'm not going to choose. Right now I'm on Team Jack Posobiec because Jack is going after James Lindsay, which is what I want him to do. I'm also on Team Nick Fuentes because Nick Fuentes is the shit stirrer that we all need, and he's right about more things than people want to admit. And I'm going to AFPAC, and I'm on Team Milo only to the extent that he's really, really funny on Twitter. I'm not saying I trust Milo. I wouldn't trust Milo. Like, you couldn't pay me enough to trust Milo. You really shouldn't. But you have to admit that Milo's presence and his diva-like qualities are really funny. And listen, Milo hasn't done anything to me. He's like Milo is a guilty pleasure, all right? Guilty pleasure. Nick is still my number one. If I was forced into a position of needing to choose between Nick and Milo, I would choose Nick. But I don't want to be forced into that position. I can enjoy them. Why can't I just enjoy them both? Why can't I just enjoy Milo because he's fucking hilarious? And I can enjoy Nick because I support Nick's efforts. But I don't want to choose. Okay, I can be indecisive. Anyway, and then Deb. Now this has nothing to do with anything. This has nothing to do with anything. But I told you guys we were going to get a good mishmash of content today. And I can't think of anyone better that qualifies as woke right other than Deb Fillman. And yesterday, Deb posted a video about cry bullying, in which, by the way, Deb is like one of the ultimate cry bullies. Deb cries and cries and cries. Deb emails people and said, Deb has messaged so many people saying, if you don't denounce Carlin, I'm going to denounce you. And Deb threatens anyone who comes anywhere near me. She says that she's going to destroy anyone that won't publicly denounce me. And then she has the gall to post a video about cry bullying. Oh, we have to watch this. We have to watch. There's just no getting around it. None. So that's what we have on the agenda. I've actually got a couple other things too that I want to talk about. But that's what we're doing today, guys. We've got a good mishmash of content. I hope you're all here for it. We got a lot to review. Mount the like button for me if you would be so kind. And as always, if you do want to support the work I'm doing, please head over to my main Substack, which is carlin.substack.com. And you can sign up for a membership for $8 a month, $80 a year. When you sign up for a membership, you get a variety of supporter perks to include 2 Zoom calls with me and my community every single week. We do them on Mondays and Wednesdays. These are private. These are unrecorded. If you are a supporter in the community and you've never been to one of the calls, I highly recommend you check it out because my community is the best. And it's just nice to be able to talk to like normal people about normal stuff without having to worry about it. And that's the type of thing you're going to get. So that's one of the perks. You can also get access to my supporter Discord, in which we do movie nights every single Sunday. And we actually do birthday requests in movie nights. So this coming Sunday, we have LK. LK has been a member of my community for 4 years. She has requested that we watch Shaun of the Dead in honor of her birthday. And so that's what we're doing on Sunday at 8 p.m. in the supporter Discord. You can also access Stony Baloney's amazing work archiving a lot of this queer anarchist stuff for us because he's putting it in there. And that's basically the resource that I'm going to when I'm looking for stuff to read for the Inner Circle podcast. Speaking of the Inner Circle podcast, when you sign up for a membership, $8 a month, $80 a year, you do get access to the full premium Inner Circle podcast. So you're going to hear me analyzing the queer anarchist literature, telling you how it's relevant to what today's queer Marxists are doing. I also spill a lot of tea in the subscriber only stuff. And so that's one way you can support my work. Another way you can support my work is by heading over to a different Substack, which is speaksocialist.substack.com. And this is where I'm actually working on my next book, but I'm doing it publicly on a Substack, except that this is a premium only Substack. So all of the content is premium, because what you're going to get with this is if you want to see a book come together in real time and have access to all my drafts, all my thoughts on it, that's what you're going to find here. I did just release last night a new book draft about why everyone hates capitalism. And how I'm writing this book is I'm writing it as though you're reading a dystopian fiction, but everything in the dystopian fiction is real. And everything in the dystopian fiction is backed up with what we've seen in the far left trainings that we've been going to for the past 3 years, that we've been watching in depth on this channel. Every single thing in this is real, but I want it to be readable. I want it to be approachable. I want it to be something that people maybe even enjoy reading. I'm kind of trying to, like, I don't know, is nonfiction horror or horror nonfiction like a genre, a literary genre? Because I feel like I might be inventing a new literary genre that it's a nonfiction book, but it's also kind of a horror dystopian movie. So I don't know if that's a thing, but if it's a thing, I might actually be inventing it. And I'm just really enjoying it. You can catch that on the speaksocialist.substack.com to sign up for this one, which is separate from my main Substack. This is like a premium perk where you're just getting access to all my book work. This is $10 a month, $100 a year, because I needed to fund this project so that I have time to actually do it. So head over there. And in addition to the written drafts, you are also going to get access to podcast versions of the drafts. And so this is a premium podcast version. You can see there as well. So you can actually hear me reading the content, doing some additional commentary. So that's what you're going to find on the Speak Socialist Substack over there if you feel so inclined to support my work. And I do really appreciate it. Let's see. All right, let's dig into it. Now, the first thing I want to look at, this is just kind of like a throwaway. I just want to show you guys this. So I was kind of searching around, and we're not actually even going to watch this video. I just want to show you guys this. I was searching around for like queer Marxism videos to watch, and I came across this person. You might recognize this person because not too long ago, this D person, and I'll show you what you might recognize this person from. They recently got featured all over conservative Twitter and media for talking about gender season, where basically they said that your gender could be a season. And so you might have seen this person, but I want to point this out because I talk a lot about socialist tattoos and what it means to have socialist tattoos. And it's not like I'm looking for a specific gang sign or anything, but this is just a really good example of what I mean by socialist tattoos. Because when I've gone undercover at socialist events, basically this is just a pattern that I've seen with socialist subculture, in that a lot of them have tattoos that is like, they're all black and white, they're all line tattoos. These are actually much nicer than what I usually see. These are like better socialist tattoos, but they have a bunch of black line tattoos all over their arm of like random shit. And it's not necessarily that you're looking for like a symbol or a sign. You're just looking for a bunch of like random black line tattoos. Now, I do want to warn people. There are people who absolutely have black line tattoos on their arms of like random stuff, especially if it's more like old school tattoos. That is actually like a thing that people do. However, so it's not to say that anyone who has tattoos like this is going to be a socialist. However, a lot of people who have tattoos like this are involved in socialist subcultures. So it's just like one of those things to look for. So I wanted to make sure you guys knew what I was talking about. You can see she's got a whole bunch of random shit, or I'm sorry, not she, they, them. They, them has a whole bunch of random stuff. She's got a face. She's got some sort of like Ouija board thing. She's got a little bag of stuff. She's got a crow. Looks like she's got some flowers and branches. Got some other stuff over here. So it's basically like a random mishmash of stuff. It's not anything specific. And exactly, Liquid Marble. Exactly. This they, them also has the socialist haircut. So this person is like really deep into this culture, because this, and they actually do, a lot of people in this subculture do have this haircut where they have a mullet, the sides of their head are shaved, and the teeny tiny little bangs. So this is a perfect rendition of the socialist haircut with the socialist tattoos, with the unshaved armpits. I bet the legs are unshaved as well. And I wanted to show you guys this so you know what to look for. Like if you see someone like this pop up in real life, socialist. I want alarm bells going off in your head. Now, the mullet doesn't necessarily need to be colorful, like hers happens to be, but there could just be like normal haircuts as well. I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew what that looked like. I have no idea what the origin of this stuff is. I suspect with the mullet, it's like they're queering beauty or whatever. But the tattoo stuff, I have no idea where this comes from. And it is actually an interesting question that I'm kind of like on the eye out for. Like, why do they all have black line tattoos of just like random stuff? Someone once said it's like it's like prison tattoos a lot of times, where like they're letting their friends practice on them or something like that, which could actually be the answer. I think that actually makes a ton of sense. But I just want people to know what that looks like, so that if you see someone like this show up in the real world, or you see socialist tattoos, or you see that haircut, then you know exactly what that person is, because they are a socialist. All right, that's that. Let's not that. Let's do this one. Okay, this is not related directly to the Jack Posobiec, James Lindsay stuff. It's going to be a quick one, but this is related to the concept of the woke right. Because I'm sorry, there is no bigger symbol for me of the woke right than the Daily Wire. As you guys know, what was it? Maybe like a month or two ago, I did this Twitter space in which Nick Fuentes was on it. Jeremy Boring, the CEO of the Daily Wire, was on it. And I got Jeremy Boring to admit that he would not hire anyone at the Daily Wire that was critical of Israel. He admitted that overtly, and he kept saying he fired Candace Owens, and then, oh my God, you aren't going to hire anyone that's critical of Israel. So he basically made it very clear on that Twitter space that Candace Owens was fired because of her views on Israel. Well, guess what? Not too long after that, Censored Man here, and he did a great job about this. So this was on March 28th. So yeah, about 2 months ago. Not too long after that, Censored Man on Twitter, who is a great follow on Twitter, you should absolutely follow him. He got information from multiple Daily Wire employees that basically said that after Candace Owens was fired, the Daily Wire corralled all their employees into Candace Owens' studio to convince them that Candace Owens was deeply anti-Semitic for saying the phrase "Christ is King." And some people doubted this. I didn't doubt it because I know how organizations work, and this is absolutely something that would happen. And so he basically exposed that the Daily Wire was trying to convince everyone that Candace Owens was anti-Semitic, and that's why they fired them in the first place. Let me see. I just saw something from Milo here. Did you see James Lindsay went on Rubin and acted like he was a conservative expert on politics? Did he really? Do I have to watch that? I kind of want to watch that. I kind of do. We'll have to look into that later. Anyway, so now Andrew Klavan has gone on trigonometry. And as a reminder, I completely triggered Konstantin Kisin on trigonometry simply by saying, Konstantin, would you like to see trainings of what real far left activists in the United States are doing? Because I have all that information. And then Konstantin Kisin was so triggered by that he unfollowed me on Twitter and blocked me on Twitter after I had been nothing but nice to him. Nothing but nice. Because Konstantin Kisin is a grifter shill that is only following the conservative narrative. And oh my God, I'm friends with Nick Fuentes. And we go, we can't have that. Because when Just Pearly Things was on trigonometry, and I'm no fan of Just Pearly Things, but Just Pearly Things did actually do a great job of interviewing Nick. Like last year, I think in March sometime. If you have a chance to watch that interview, I really recommend it. It's a long interview, but you really get a much different sense of who Nick is and how he's been screwed over. So she did a good job with that. And then after she interviewed Nick Fuentes, she went on trigonometry, and trigonometry was like, Konstantin Kisin was like, how dare you interview Nick Fuentes? And she's like, well, I just talked to people. And Konstantin Kisin was like, you should have pushed back on him, as though he has any standing to tell Pearl how to operate her own show. And listen, again, I'm not a fan of Pearl. I think Pearl gets a lot right, but I think Pearl has some issues to work out. But it's not a Konstantin Kisin's business if Pearl decides to interview Nick Fuentes or anyone else, and it's not his job to tell her what to do. And he made this whole big deal about, like, you should have pushed back on him. Well, guess what, Konstantin? People are allowed to think what they want, and they're not required to agree with you. He's the great savior of liberal values, but he cannot stand when people disagree with him. Anyway, Andrew Klavan went on trigonometry and basically confirmed that Candace Owens was fired from the Daily Wire because Nick Fuentes was saying nice things about her online, and she was saying Christ is King, and they consider to be Christ is King to be anti-Semitic. So let's just watch this clip so that you guys can hear exactly what Andrew Klavan said.
And ever since, I've been the target of what they call the Groypers. I just call them Nazis because that's what they are. There were things going out over our air that she was saying that were being at least received, I have to say, as being deeply anti-Semitic. So that Nick Fuentes, who is a virtual Nazi, I mean, there's no space between him and what a Nazi would be saying, was praising her to the skies. If Nick Fuentes praises me to the skies, I go out and say, no, I'm not on your side. I don't know what you mistook, but there was nothing coming back. And so it was becoming uncomfortable to be on the same, station, the same venue where that stuff was coming out. And so
I'm just going to pause it there. Really just think about that. Nick Fuentes said nice things about Candace Owens. And Candace Owens didn't publicly disavow Nick Fuentes. And Andrew Klavan is such a fucking snowflake that made a really uncomfortable work environment because I wanted Candace Owens to denounce Nick Fuentes and she didn't do it. You want to tell me that the left are snowflakes who want a safe space, but Andrew Klavan is such a snowflake that Andrew Klavan is basically doing what Deb Philman did when Deb Philman emailed everyone and their mother saying, if you don't publicly denounce Carlin, then I'm going to destroy you. And it's exactly the same thing. This is what the woke right is. If you don't agree with them and you don't do exactly what they want you to do, and that usually has to do with supporting Israel, by the way, because one of the reasons that Deb is so teed off at me is I do not believe that we should be supporting what Israel's doing. I think it's a genocide and I'm anti-war and anti-genocide. But no, because I don't support what Israel is doing, that makes me an evil anti-Semite. And you better denounce Carlin and No, that's woke. I'm allowed to have my opinion. Candace Owens, who I also don't like, and I think she's a raging narcissist, but Candace Owens is allowed to have an opinion. Nick Fuentes, who I do like, in fact, hang on, stand by.
Carlin Borsenko is my girl. Carlin Borsenko is my girl.
What's that?
Carlin Borsenko is my girl.
Nick Fuentes, who I do like, though I don't agree with him on many things, is also allowed to have a goddamn opinion. And it is woke as F. If you are a major fucking conservative personality using your platform to say the only acceptable opinion is the one that I agree with. And if you don't agree with me, then you should be fired, you should be silenced, you should be deplatformed, all this stuff. It's ridiculous. Anyway, continue.
So without ever having any kind of personal animus toward Candace, or even knowing what it was she intended, I'm not even saying that was, how she intended it to be received. It simply became impossible to have a good feeling about this place that I helped build and that I love very much and that I'm very proud of, as an entity. And it was very painful to have that kind of stuff coming out over the air. And I did not want Nick Fuentes. I don't want Nick Fuentes' praise. I don't even want, I don't want him to have a happy day because of anything that I said.
I don't want Nick Fuentes to have a happy day because of anything that I said. Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Isn't Andrew Klavan a Christian? You're claiming to be a Christian, the good moral authority that we should follow. And you're like, I don't even want that person to have a happy day. Are you kidding me? Listen, there are a lot of people that I dislike. I'm not going to be like, if they have a happy day, then that ruins my day. It's like so much for loving kindness. Exactly. It's like, who cares? People that you disagree with are worthy of having good days too, Andrew.
And so that was my basic reaction. And in that was involved the fact that some of this was being phrased in religious terms. And one of the ways this was happening was the phrase "Christ is King." Now, as I said repeatedly on the show, as Jeremy Boring, who runs the Daily Wire, said repeatedly, we believe this. We believe that Christ is King. I also believe in the cross of Christ, but if you burn the cross on somebody's lawn, it's no longer the cross of Christ. It's just a vehicle, a symbol of your toxic hatred. And so the way it was being used online as an attack on Jews,
Andrew Klavan believes that saying Christ is King is anti-Semitic. The Daily Wire believes that saying Christ is King is anti-Semitic. All because they are terrified of Nick Fuentes. And they've been terrified of Nick Fuentes for a long time. They are so terrified of him that they will fire Candace Owens for saying Christ is King. Because Nick Fuentes might like that Candace Owens said Christ is King. That's insane. That is insane. I wonder why they're so scared. That's a great question. Nick Fuentes is a 25-year-old live streamer that does a show out of his mom's basement on a green screen. And that's not meant to be a put down. Nick Fuentes has become very successful doing what he's doing. He is phenomenally successful. So I'm not like shitting on him or anything, but I'm just saying that the Daily Wire, with their hundreds of millions of dollars, are terrified of a 25-year-old live streamer that has somehow become more powerful than they are. They are so terrified that they will fire Candace Owens just because Nick Fuentes said something nice about her. That's insane. That's unhinged. And that's because they know that Nick is right. They know that people are listening to Nick, and they know that they're being exposed for being the chief propagandist for fucking Israel. Daily Wire is Israel first. They don't give a flying flip about America. They made this clear over and over and over and over and over again. They fired Candace Owens because she was critical of Israel. They will not hire anyone that is critical of Israel. Jordan Peterson blocked me on Twitter for saying you should maybe talk to the 25-year-old. Jordan Peterson, world-renowned psychologist, expert psychologist, literally wrote books for young men. Nick has an entire audience of young men that could actually probably really use Jordan Peterson's advice if we're honest about it. I retweeted Jordan Peterson maybe about a month ago because Jordan Peterson had retweeted someone tweeted at him saying, "When will you talk to Nick Fuentes?" And Jordan Peterson was like, "When hell freezes over." And I retweeted Jordan Peterson, world-renowned psychologist, and said, "You're afraid to talk to a 25-year-old?" And I was blocked, like almost immediately. So I'm sorry, man. Even when I didn't like Nick, I would still sit here and listen to him. Like we had many Nick Fuentes streams when I was not on kind of like Nick's. I hadn't come around yet because Nick was still kind of being, well, I mean, listen, man, like I think that a lot of things changed after October 7th and a lot of things became very clear to me. And I still don't agree with Nick on a lot of things. I really, really don't. But even when I didn't agree with him, I sat here and listened to him. We did entire streams where all we did was listen to him from start to finish so that people could actually hear. And eventually I came around. All right, you know. Sometimes it takes some time. But even when I didn't like him, I still would have talked to him. Even when I didn't like him, I still listened to him. If Jordan Peterson doesn't have a thick skin to listen to a 25-year-old, then he shouldn't have a psychology license. I'm sorry. Like, that's ridiculous. And none of these people should be responsible for communicating anything in regards to like conservative values or defending anything, because all they want to defend is Israel. So, mask off. Mask has been off for a while, but I wanted to make sure everyone saw that from a Censored Man. Again, doing a great job on Twitter. I hope everyone gives him a follow. Let me dig into some of these super chats that I've been getting, and I appreciate you guys sending them in. Dashing Rogue says, it's not just a Gnostic sex cult now, it's a Gnostic death cult as well. Their words, not mine. Yeah, well, they like to make stuff up, don't they, Dashing Rogue? Thank you for the super chat. Maria C says, thanks for all the podcasts. Much appreciated. I appreciate you, Maria C. The Nick Rekieta stream last night is what should have been episode 69. I mean, maybe, but I really do feel like Hormaxer was the perfect Nitwits episode 69. And now we can move on till we get to episode 169. We'll have to figure something else out again. But I thought, I mean, the Rekieta stream was something else last night. If you guys missed it, yo, listen, to be serious, I don't want to seem like I'm unkind. I really do hope Nick Rekieta gets it together and goes to rehab and, you know, just pull, like it can happen to anyone. It really can. We shouldn't make fun of him. We shouldn't hold it against him for the rest of his life. I hope he gets the help he needs. I hope he spends time with his family. I hope he takes some time off, because being a streamer kind of sucks. It really does in a lot of ways. It's both the easiest and the hardest job you'll ever have. And I think that falling into like what he's done can be very easy for anyone doing this, because this lifestyle does give you a lot of freedom. But at the same time, when you have that much freedom, sometimes you can fall into things. So I would encourage everyone to be kind and have some grace. And yeah, I mean, we laughed at what happened last night, and I think you can't not laugh at it because he masturbated on the internet. But we all do want to actually be good human beings as well. So I hope people, kind of cut him a little bit of slack. Why is Andrew Clavin, a 60-year-old man, going after people decades younger than him? Yeah, that's a really good question. That is a really good question indeed. Anyway, moving on, I want to kind of get into the main show. And so we got some stuff to look at. So James Lindsay and Jack Posobiec have been fighting. I want to just take a look at this first. And the reason I want to look at this first, I don't know that we're going to watch the whole half-hour video that Jack has here, but the reason I want to watch this first is this happened last night. So we're kind of going in chronological order, okay? So Jack and James have been fighting for the better part of the last week over who is woke and who is not woke. And Jack is calling James woke because James is trying to gatekeep. And Michael O'Fallon, who is the checkbook behind James and New Discourses, is also trying to gatekeep. And they're attacking Jack because they don't believe, essentially, Michael O'Fallon and James Lindsay do not believe that anyone on the internet should be able to do commentary on the far left except for them. And Jack Posobiec and Joshua, who we'll have on the channel next week, wrote a whole book about the communist revolution in America and how to fight back against it, which, for my money, even though I've written a book like that too, it's a good thing that there's more of this information out there. Listen, I'm going to say this. I don't believe in competition among content creators that are covering the left. Because quite frankly, there is more than enough to cover for everyone. They let's bring some more people in, write some more books, create some more content. There is more than enough nonsense going on the far left for everyone. And the other thing too is I'm not the best teacher for everyone. There are a lot of people who hate me. I'm a love me or hate me girl. There are a lot of people who love me. There are a lot of people who hate me. And so I'm not the best teacher for everyone. Guess what? For some of those people who hate me, maybe Jack Posobiec is going to be a great teacher for them. And that's just the way it goes, man. And you have to have this is why you want to have more people talking about this. You want to have more people teaching this, because some people are going to like my content and some people are going to like Jack's content and some people are going to hate my content and some people are going to hate Jack's content and some people might like both of our content and they can learn from both of us, and that's all cool, because the ultimate goal here should be that we should be teaching as many people as possible what is going on and giving them tips and strategies in order to fight back. Because if we don't do that, we are going to lose, and we are going to lose badly. And it's just the way it goes. So I don't believe in competition between people creating this type of content. I think we should be working together. I think we should be lifting each other up. I think this is part of the reason why me and my community are, quite frankly, so offended at James Lindsay and his actions and New Discourses and Michael O'Fallon, because they are actively trying to gatekeep information from people who are searching for these answers, who just want to know what's going on in the world, who have I correctly identified that something crazy is afoot, but they don't know what it is. People need information and they need it from a variety of sources. And this is why I've always done my very best to, when people are covering content well, I want to lift those people up. I want to platform them. I want to reference them. Stu Studio, who we've done on the channel a couple times now, doing an excellent job of covering the college protests. No one is doing a better job than Stu Studio. He's the Stu Studio on Twitter. Go follow him. Stuff like that. And so I think this idea of there being competition among people is crazy. I don't like it. And this is what Jack is railing on, because he has a different perspective than James Lindsay does, and James Lindsay doesn't want people to hear that. And so Jack is calling him woke right because of it. And he did this half-hour stream on Twitter last night where he talked about that. Human Centipede said, "I'm definitely reading the book." I'll say this about Jack's book too. It looks fucking cool. It really does. Let me show you, actually. I should have had this up, but what is it? Unhuman book, Unhumans. Hang on. Listen, you guys know, I am very critical of branding and presentation, especially among conservatives. And I have to say, I'm a little jealous because that branding is cool, man. That branding is cool. I wish I had thought of this. And I hope the book, I'm sure the book's going to be great, but I hope it measures up because it's just fucking cool. Like, conservatives finally did something cool. You have to create cool things if you want to rally people around a counterculture, right? And so I'm jealous, man. If I had thought of doing that skull, maybe I will do a skull like that, on like a different one. Obviously, I can't do a direct copy, but if I do an homage to them, like, would they really be mad with like that red skull with that? Like, that's fucking cool. So I'm not going to be mad at it. I'm very critical of branding most of the time. But they did a great job with that. And I'm looking forward to reading the book, and I hope they do give some good tips and tricks. But that's not what we're talking about today. Yeah, it's like Commie Day of the Dead. Like, what a great idea. Awesome. Just really well done. All right, let's listen to what Jack had to say about it's okay to say Christ is king and the woke right is in shambles.
We're back live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard part 2. I think we got some of the tech issues sussed out. Apologies to everybody who was watching part 1 of the stream, but I do believe that we have producer Foz now with us here on the program. Producer Foz, what up, man?
Right.
Hang on. Liquid Marble says, for books, it's the content that counts. The cover may look amazing, but the text inside sucks. I don't disagree with that. I don't. But you have to admit, most conservative books have exactly the same branding. It's like an eagle and a flag and like something like uber, like traditional and stuff like that. And so I don't know what the content of the book is. And I'm sure like it's I'm sure it's good, but like they haven't released it yet, so I don't know. But like what I will say is like props for even just like thinking about the brand of something different. Like Jack is doing this whole like unhuman thing, and I think that that's a really cool approach. So at least they're thinking about it differently, and I have to give credit where credit is due for that, because that's just not something you see from conservatives.
Guys, how you doing?
You're not actually in person though. You're actually a disembodied voice, and you won't even come on camera. So
exactly, it's got an underground vibe.
That's okay though, because guys, I don't actually usually see producer Foz anyway very much. So it's like, who is this guy? What is he doing? What's he up to? What's he doing back there? So I wrote the headline of this as "It's okay to say Christ is king," and sorry woke right, and the woke right is in shambles. Because we're saying Christ is king again. And so Foz, this is what I want to tease on. And you as a New Yorker, this hits home for you, because what I wanted to tease out is this idea that we are under cultural oppression. Actually true. There are elements of our government that are and have been participating in this cultural oppression. It's very obvious. They've driven God from the public square. And when I say bring God back into the public square, you have these people who say, oh, well, he wants to force convert everybody, and he's unconstitutional. He's calling for a Christian monarchy.
For the record, I'm not a Christian, and I'm not going to become a Christian, but I also don't care if other people are Christians, and I don't care if people are talking about their faith publicly, and I don't care. I don't care. It makes no difference. If they want to rally people, if Nick Fuentes wants to rally people around Catholicism, even though I think Catholicism is kind of gay, he's allowed to do that, and that's fine. If Jack Posobiec wants to reintroduce Christianity into the public square, that's fine. No one is being forced to become a Christian, and as long as I'm not forced to become a Christian, I don't care.
He's calling all that stuff, and I guess like what's the deal with this, and why does a book about just the history of communist revolutions and those who have fought and defeated them, called unhumansbook.com, promo code woke right, called Unhumans, book launch June 15th, Detroit, Michigan. Mike Ben's going to be there.
Same day as AFTAC.
Foz, you going to be there? You haven't told me yet.
Same day and location as AFTAC. I'm going to be there.
Oh, you still got to check? Oh, man. Listen how whip Foz is. You got to check with the boss.
Yeah, I got to check with the boss. But I mean, I think you're right.
But the boss will be there.
For the record, I'm pretty sure I was the first person to talk about the woke right I wrote about the woke right in my book, Actively Unwoke, The Ultimate Guide for Fighting Back Against the Woke Insanity in Your Life. I literally wrote about this. I've been talking about the woke right since January of 2021. If there was anyone talking about it earlier than me, tell me, fact check me, keep me honest. But I don't remember anyone else talking about the woke right when I was talking about them. So I'm giving myself credit for calling this years ahead of everyone else. But you know what? I'm just glad people caught up. That's fine. It's fine to be behind me. Most people are.
Yeah, that's
Trump
true.
gonna be there. Tanya hasn't told me yet if she's coming. Tanya Tay. You know, she's doing, did I tell you Tanya's doing like a she's doing like a fast, she's doing like a cleanse.
Oh, that's fantastic.
She's
Okay.
doing it's Prolon.
Okay.
You've heard about those guys, right?
I don't really know what.
To be really clear, hang on. To be really clear, I'm not doing a speech at AFPAC. No, I'm just going as like a whole bunch of people are going as like VIPs. Till again, we're gonna go to like there's gonna be like a VIP after party or something. So I'm not doing a speech. Like hard no. The reason I'm going to AFPAC is A, I was invited. B, I go to far left events all the time, and so I don't think this is any different. And when I go to far left events, I usually have to wear a disguise and use a fake name. For AFPAC, they invited me as a VIP and are going to give me dinner. So it's like a completely different experience of going to like a totally different type of event. C, I want to see what actually happens there for myself. There's also a bunch of people that are going that I do want to see or meet in person. Even some of the gripers I'm looking forward to meeting in person. But I'm not doing a speech, okay? I'm not ready for that level of commitment yet. I'm not a Catholic. I'm not a groiper. I just like I'll be friends with Nick. I'll be friends with some of the groipers that are cool. I just want to go and observe. That's all I'm doing.
What their speciality is, but I have heard the name. Yes.
Yeah. They're she really likes it. It's like I was surprised because I didn't know, am I gonna be dealing with a hangry Belarusian all day and like a hangry Slavic wife? I was like, please, for the love of all that is holy, do not be the hangry Slavic wife all week. And
come on, start talking about it.
They give you a week of food, but it's
no, I don't want to talk about the
and
plans.
we're talking about the woke right.
There we go.
Who seems to be happy with the way things, you know, this is kind of what I'm getting at. Like, it seems like they're totally against anyone who wants to bring back any era of American culture prior to like the 90s or just like the pre-woke left. You know, what's your take on it?
I don't know. It seems like they're okay to lose for the next.
I wouldn't define the woke right like that. My definition of woke has always been incredibly consistent. Woke means authoritarian. It's people who want to gatekeep what you can say and what you can do and what ideas you can consider and prevent and cancel you if you're not saying the right things and deplatform you if you're not saying the right things. Woke means authoritarian. So woke can exist on the left, and certainly it does with social justice and socialists and communists and all that stuff and cancel culture on the left. Woke also exists on the right. The Daily Wire is a great example of woke. James Lindsay is a great example of woke. Michael O'Fallon is a great example of woke. All the fucking like so-called anti-woke right that have canceled me and deplatformed me over the years, they're all effing woke because they're all trying to control what you can say and what you can do and what ideas you can consider as well. So if we get down to brass tacks, that's what I think woke means. And I kind of think Jack is sort of saying something similar, although he's being a little bit more specific about it, where he specifically wants to push Christianity as like an anecdote to woke, which I don't think is going to work, but he's allowed to do that. And he's saying these people don't want to allow for this idea. So I think if we really get down to brass tacks, we're sort of saying the same thing, except that Jack is being a little bit more specific in it in terms of like he's trying to push his specific agenda with it, and that's okay. Yeah, but Milo is funny. He's funny. That's all I care about.
100 years.
Yeah. Well, no, but here's what I'm saying. It's not that they're okay to lose. They win. They win by us losing because that means their true goal was never to like restore the full-throated original healthy American republic. It was actually to go back to just sort of like the pre-woke consensus politics.
Right, because that's where their best takes come from, right? Like they don't have a based understanding of the old school version of it, right? Like their version is all through the prism of like, all right, well, you got this guy Obama, and we have a way intellectually to kind of take him down or whatever. And that's not the truth of the matter, right? Like that's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a situation where a united Christian country could not be stopped by anyone, right? And they're doing everything to keep it in neutral. Right, like any opportunity for a kill,
Yes.
oh, wait a minute,
But
let's
did you
talk
Yes.
about
call
that.
them the woke
Whoa,
right?
whoa, let's shift back into neutral there. Whoa.
Listen, like, did you call them the woke right? Because I know that Hotep Jesus is claiming that he coined that, but Hotep Jesus also doesn't understand basic things about the left, like whiteness means capitalism. And so I question that. I'm not saying you guys didn't know this. I'm just saying, did you coin the term woke right? It may be like a distinction that doesn't matter, but
Going a little bit too far. That sounds very in neo-integral Gnosticist, and they just like keep adding
Gnostic!
words.
Yeah.
You can tell how mad they are by how many words they string together when they throw their and the favorite tactic of the woke right, by the way, is their not only is it they take the moral, they claim this like moral ground
That's
over
Stony
you, but
baloney.
and then try to like talk down to you and
Quoting-
condescend to you to the point where and then
Jack Posobiec right now is literally quoting Stony Baloney, and he's gonna, in this other segment we're gonna watch, Jack is gonna actually show us Stony Baloney's tweet where he said that. So Stony Baloney, who is Human Centipede in the chat, is influencing Jack Posobiec with 2 million plus Twitter followers. That's a good thing.
and call you names until you acquiesce, but like I'm not trying to do that. Like I wake up 6 a.m. on Sunday morning and like dude's already coming at me. I guess he's like in France on one of his tours. You know, he does these cruises or whatever. And he's just like blowing me up out of nowhere, like literally out of nowhere. I'm like, who's this douche? And so okay. I wake up on Sunday, think I'm going to the Sabaton show with the kids and Tanya. And he's coming after the book, he's coming after me for over stuff I've never even said. And that's what's crazy. I'm like, well, what do we say in the book? We say reciprocity, we say lawfare, and we say everything they do to us, we're going to do to them 10 times harder. That's it.
Okay, so reciprocity, lawfare, everything they do to us, we do. I can respect that. Listen, if Jack Posobiec is advocating for a more aggressive stance against the communist left, beautiful. Fucking beautiful. Like, I have no problem with that. Be fucking aggressive. Get in their face. Trigger them. Just like we're doing with, hang on, phone call. There we go. Decline. Just like we're doing with James Lindsay, because quite frankly, the reason that we are working so hard on triggering James Lindsay is James Lindsay is acting like a woke little bitch. And so if James Lindsay wants to act woke, then we will treat him as though he is woke. There, in my book, The Actively Unwoke, The Ultimate Guide for Fighting Back Against the Woke Insanity in Your Life, available on Amazon if you feel like it. There's a whole chapter called The Rules for the Actively Unwoke. And rule number 8 is that you mock them relentlessly, because when you mock them relentlessly and you trigger them and you get in their face, they make mistakes and they do things that you can use against them. So if Jack is saying, well, first of all, lawfare is always a good idea. There are people like Gabrielle Clark who have been constantly trying to get conservatives lawyers, and conservatives refuse to sue people. Gabrielle Clark talks about this all the time. She's a mom that had her kids socially transitioned in school. She also filed the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in schools in the country. And she actively works every single day to try to get conservatives to sue schools that are screwing with their kids. And she has told this story over and over again that even if she gets them a free lawyer, conservatives will not sue people because they believe that suing people is a leftist tactic. And so if Jack Posobiec is saying, sue, lawfare, I'm on board with that.
That's it.
And we saw shades of this, and I'll say this, and I say this with the caveat, right? But we saw a lot of shades of this during the primary with Governor Ron DeSantis, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of what Ron DeSantis has done lately, right? But I'm speaking more about his following on social media.
I said literally exactly the same thing earlier on Twitter. There is a huge overlap between Ron DeSantis supporters and the woke right. I would also argue there's a huge overlap between the like pro-Israel, pro-Zionist supporters and anyone that will call you anti-Semitic if you don't think we should be sending money to Israel, and the woke right and Ron DeSantis supporters.
And ultimately, you know, you saw
It's similar. Even it's. I mean, it's not like it's not the DeSantis crew. It's different people than that.
No, I disagree, Jack. No.
I mean, there might be some. There might be some
there's
crossover.
overlap, Jack.
Well, thematically, what I'm talking about is taking some sort of moral or intellectual woke high ground, right? Which ultimately sacrifices
Jack always looks like
and
he's gonna cry.
compromises our chance of winning.
Yes.
Right? Like
Yes.
the goal here is to win. So when you start, you know, dividing up a party or dividing up, you know, a faith, right? Like we lose this one, we lose it all, right? And then all the idiosyncratic arguments are out the window. Right, so it doesn't matter either way.
I'm not sure, honestly. His
and
producer, maybe.
Right, you know, especially with what you had to endure over the weekend. You know, like when it comes to these Unhumans, man, they really just want to hear themselves talk, right?
True.
And they don't care if it's from a gulag, and they don't care if it's from the White House.
True.
Because ultimately, once you take away their 2000s era, late 90s era perspective on politics or whatever the matter of the day is, they're left with nothing. There's no real substance there, bro. So, I mean, I don't know. I think you won that battle pretty handedly. And Mr. Beef Sweats probably got the longest 15 minutes of fame he'll ever get, you know, ever again.
Mr. Beef Sweats is Michael O'Fallon. Again, Michael O'Fallon is the guy with the checkbook that has been funding new discourses since the beginning. I just want to do a quick pause to remind everyone to mount the like button for me. Mounting the like button helps YouTube know to recommend my content to more people, so we can have more people come and join us on the live stream. There is a shocking disparity between the number of people who are watching right now and the number of people who have mounted the like button. And listen, if you don't feel comfortable mounting the like button, you can high five the like button. You can hold the like button's hand. You can put your arm around the like button, give the like button a kiss on the cheek, do whatever you want to the like button. The like button consents. It's all right, but just please do something to the like button so that YouTube knows that to recommend my stuff. James Lindsay reminds me of college profs who can't stand it when someone has a different understanding of information than they do. They just ignore. I agree. I hope we can reach Jack so we have an ally in him, even if he doesn't collaborate with Carlin or any of us directly. Yeah, I feel the same way about it. I don't really care about collaborating with anyone right now, to be honest. But like I said, I don't believe in competition with people. And so, like, if there are ways that we can be like, okay, we're kind of on the same team. Let's just not get in each other's way. Let's not fuck each other up. If we can lift each other up and say, you know what, this is a great resource. This is a great resource. Let's do that, because at the end of the day, we actually all have the same enemy, and that's the communists. The communists are the real enemy. This is what I've been talking about for years. Every time I've railed on the so-called anti-woke right, because they don't understand that this infighting bullshit where they're all canceling each other and trying to destroy each other and smearing each other and defaming each other. And this has been going on for years and years and years. Ever since Biden took office, the anti-woke right has been doing this to each other. If we can come down to some understanding that we're not going to fight, we're not going to work against each other, we don't have to talk, we don't have to be best friends, we don't have to do stuff together or anything. But the enemy are the communists. Jack Posobiec is not my enemy. James Lindsay is my enemy because he's fucking with my shit. And he's getting in the way of teaching people about what's going on the left. But Jack Posobiec, if all he wants to do is rally conservatives to actually do stuff in the real world, to fight back against the commies, he's not my enemy. Woke right equals propping up the uniparty dictatorship. That's why O'Fallon and crew are painting all these disparate groups as Gnostic, occult, anti-Semitic, their competition. This is why James Lindsay says that we're all socialists. This is why James Lindsay is telling people I have a personality disorder I don't have, for daring to question him. Exactly.
You know, to put it lightly.
We're doing promo code woke right at unhumansbook.com, and people can check it out. Sign copies of the book. We're doing the and here's the reason, by the way. Here's the reason that I'm talking about
Josh
this,
Randall,
because
disavows. I appreciate
what I see on the
you.
horizon is that these guys are trying to set the table for when Trump wins, right? Isn't that the obvious situation that we're seeing here? So that because Trump is winning, because MAGA is ascendant, we see people trying to like infiltrate.
Josh Randall, if you want, you can take all the super chats that you give to big tech and you can just bring them over here, and you can be my manservant if you do that. Like, he doesn't need those super chats. He's doing fine. You can bring all those super chats right over here. I don't mind. We love you, Josh Randall.
Their way into the movement and claim, oh, we were always Trump supporters. We were always this. We're always that. I'm like, who are you again? Like, oh yeah, like you were at some event like on the Great Reset a couple years ago, whatever. Like, yeah, you had like a 30,000 slide PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, like I kind of remember you. Like I was on my phone for most of the time, but sure, like you weren't very memorable, but I do remember you like physically being there or whatever. And that's what's so funny is like these guys are now all of a sudden trying to also claim that they have some sort of moral high ground over the whole movement. And I'm
Yep.
like, excuse me, wait, what? Like, no, like you aren't part of this. Donald Trump is the head of the MAGA movement. That's number one. He sets the agenda. Okay, that's number one. Number two is for those of us who are identifying good ideas to help achieve those goals are like the rest of us in the movement. It's like, oh, here's a good way to do that. Like here's a good way. Like yesterday, we did the whole show talking about these MAGA community centers. By the way, I never got your take on that. What do you think? Because it was me and Rich Barris, and we were talking about it, and it just kind of came up in it just sort of came up naturally in the conversation. And we're talking about how these new Trump supporters that are coming in through the coming in through like the new rallies and the new media that, they're getting on board, but it's like, how do you turn those into new voters? And I said, you can't just like knock on their door and be like, hi, I'm so-and-so from the Trump campaign, from the Republican Party. Like, nobody wants to answer that door, And I say that, and like, I am a conservative Trump supporter, and I don't want to spend time on Saturday.
So is Jack Posobiec talking about creating places within communities that like conservatives can go to like do stuff together and connect with each other and do and talk about conservative things and do conservative things to like bond as a community to make sure everyone is actually voting in the way that they want them to vote because they're all friends now? If that's what he's talking about with like the MAGA community centers, that's a legitimately effing great idea. They should absolutely be doing that. Like, give some place that people can go to actually create. Holy shit, is Jack Posobiec actually going to save us all? Really? I'm genuinely shocked about this, but that's a really good idea.
Saturday, like talking to the guy at my door, it just feels like an imposition.
Not that I think that Trump is going to save anything, but I do think he's better than the alternative, and I really don't think Trump is going to win in November. I hope I'm wrong about that, but that's a good idea, those community centers.
And so, the way I said, the way you could bridge that is have Trump community centers in areas with low propensity voters that people could go to. And by the way, I didn't even tell you this part yet. I got some phone calls on that last night.
Good.
Oh, wow. I'm not surprised, man. It's such a fantastic idea.
People were like, you got to call Poso about what was on the show.
You just never know.
Well, I'll give this away a little bit. So I ended up doing immediately after that, you can put two and two together, but I pre-taped the Laura Trump show. I'll be on Laura tonight, co-chair of the RNC.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a fantastic idea. We need to build communities. Communities were absolutely destroyed in 2020 and the subsequent years, especially in liberal cities, with lockdowns. And there's this hangover effect of agoraphobia that has taken root in certain types. I'm sure you've all met them.
I wonder if Beef Sweats' business has taken it on the chin. So much of the cruise agencies and cruise lines, and the travel agency went pretty hard in COVID. You got ships crashing into bridges in Baltimore. So
I think you could give
heart goes out to him.
With a bargain.
Heart goes out to him.
Well, yeah, actually, I recently there was an episode of the Inner Circle podcast that I did recently where I read, what was it, a queer anarchism manifesto where they talked about organizing affinity groups. And isn't that funny that HR departments have affinity groups that are all basically segmented by like race and gender and sexual orientation, all that. They call those affinity groups. That came from the queer anarchist subculture and these zines where in the queer anarchist subculture, they have like cells all over the country, and they basically within those cells they organize further down into different affinity groups where they're working on different things. And it's just interesting that language from queer anarcho-communist subculture bled into DEI and HR years later.
Yeah, my heart goes out to him too. You might need a heart transplant one of these days. days, but God forbid. But no, I'm just saying, like, I think that you can always find a way from a marketing and a business perspective to sell people a reason to leave their house nowadays, right? People will get on a cruise because it's cheap. They'll take a trip because the flight might be a little bit less expensive than it was 4 years ago, et cetera, et cetera. But when it really comes down to their own personal communities, right? I think that people, especially the hangovers from COVID, they look for excuses not to go out, which is agoraphobia. And obviously those people lean left and, they're not necessarily salvageable, but some people are salvageable.
So yeah, let me say that too, because like, just because there's a lot of these like, anti-woke classic liberals, I don't necessarily think that they're all woke, right? I don't. And I think there's a lot of people that are like good allies against wokeness, and there has been generally an alliance between the woke, of the anti-woke umbrella.
No, there hasn't, Jack. That's
sort
not
of like,
right.
I put Jordan Peterson in this.
No, wrong.
In this bubble,
No.
who I've interviewed and
No,
others.
I'm sorry, that's not right, Jack.
And it's like, yeah, like we're all generally against the main thing.
No.
But now that the main thing that we were all against has lost power because the alliance has been so strong, just like every other movement in political history. Now,
and here's where I start to get a little suspicious. Jack thinks the far left has lost power because of Jordan Peterson and the anti-woke alliance. That's not right, Jack. I'm sorry, bro. That's just not correct. The left is just as powerful as ever. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, he was doing so well. But this is why we spend so much time looking at what the actual activists are doing on the ground. Because Jordan Peterson has no effing clue what the activists are doing. I'm sorry. I don't think Jack Posobiec has any clue what the activists are doing either. I mean, maybe he knows a little bit more because he just wrote this book. But like most of the so-called anti-woke right believe that the real communist activists are libs of TikTok, which they're not. That's okay though. That's okay. It's okay. Yeah. I mean, we know that because we watch, we listen to them. We know that they're gaining power every day. We know that. Yep. Conservatives think they're winning. Okay, let's hang in. Let's be charitable. Jack is at least moving in the right direction that we need him to move in. Baby steps. Yep. They think AOC is the radical left when the real radical left hates AOC and considers her to be a traitor. Yep.
Now you're starting to see the cracks form along the edges because suddenly it looks like the right's going to be ascendant and going to be in power.
No.
And so people are vying for who's going to be in the driver's seat. That's why, by the way, when Tucker went to Russia, you saw all these people trying to scalp Tucker, trying to go after Tucker, Tucker's this and Tucker's that. For it, why? No, it has nothing to do with them actually believing those things. I mean, maybe some of them do. If they do, they're completely insane. But I think it more has to do with the fact that there's going to be a power struggle now that it looks like Trump is going to win.
I don't think Trump's going to win.
There's still a lot of work to be done. I see, guys like you, guys like Charlie Kirk, guys like Raheem Kassam. The MAGA hat needs to stay on right now. And
Listen. We need to play this very carefully, okay? Stony Baloney is in Jack Posobiec's good graces right now. We do not approach Jack Posobiec in the same way that we approach James Lindsay. With James Lindsay, we are treating James Lindsay as though he is a woke asshole because that's how he's behaving. We don't use that same tactic with Jack Posobiec. Jack Posobiec needs to be gently fed this information because he's not a stupid person. This is just something that he probably hasn't been exposed to yet. He needs to be gently fed this information in a very nice way. No antagonism, no haranguing. Okay, and we're going to trust that he is a smart person. And if he becomes aware of this information that most people on the right have no idea about because they don't pay attention to things on the left that actually matters, then that would actually influence him. Let's go in with that perspective because Jack is so close. He's right there. And remember, guys, there was a time a couple of years ago before we started doing these constant deep dives into the far left that a lot of us were in the same place Jack was. So, like, a lot of us are not very far removed from being in the same place, and it just takes time and it takes access to the information and it takes knowing what to look for. He's so close. He's right there. And now we just need to gently, we're your friend. We're giving you things that you're not going to like, but are going to be helpful to you.
We need to convert, and we need to get votes, right? That's the bottom line. Like, the work needs to be done. Are there going to be people boxing out for a political, spot at the table, for self-preservation, for, to try to feed their families? Of course, that's always going to be the way it is. But just like you and your gang of 16ers got Cart Trump on the finish line, 8 years ago, we're going to need that and then some, right, in order to win this fight, right? So MAGA hat needs to stay on, and we need to be curating votes at the dinner table. We need to be chasing votes everywhere you go. Any chance you can get, right? Memorial Day is coming up. Here's your test, human events audience.
And maybe, listen, next week on Wednesday at 3 p.m., we're going to have Joshua on. Joshua co-authored the Unhumans book with Jack Posobiec. So they're friends. So maybe it would be a good opportunity for us to gently feed Joshua some of that information. Like, Joshua, do you know about the Abolish the Family movement? Do you know anything about this? Can we show you some stuff from the, we have an opportunity here, okay? We're going to be nice. We're going to play it straight. We're going to be respectful. Like, if he's actually trying to do something organizing, like to fight back against the left, that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. We do. I mean, this is a good point. We do need to be cautious with our hope and expectations and emotions. We just need to just play it even keeled. There's no reason to be upset. We're on the same team. We all want the same things.
Conversation at your Memorial Day barbecue with your family, at your dinner with your family. Ask them the AD test. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago with Trump? And abstaining is not an option, right? Abstaining is a vote against the republic, right? So, ultimately, when people are attacking you for...
If we can get Jack Posobiec to look at some of the content we have, then I will vote for Trump. If we can get him to look at this and integrate it into his thought process, I will vote for Trump. I have been in the camp of I'm not going to vote because I don't think either candidate's actually going to fix us. But if we can achieve this, and Jack comes along and Jack lets us show him what's going on, then I will do my part and I will vote for his candidate.
For your way of being, it's all an attack on the bigger goal, right? Because you're analogous with MAGA. Nobody's more analogous with MAGA than you, Jack Posobiec, right? So
I would say Donald Trump is probably the most analogous of MAGA, but I'm well aware of my reputation.
Right. So when somebody attacks you, it's an attack on Trump, it's an attack on MAGA, it's an attack on the whole thing.
And that's the weird thing, right? It's like people are saying why are they attacking now? Why
they've been attacking for years, Jack.
Book out. And I would say not necessarily. I think it's because
they've been attacking for years, Jack. They just haven't been attacking you. There is a whole little clique of these people, and it's all centered around Moms for Liberty. They have been attacking other people for years. They just haven't been attacking you. Probably because they thought you were too big, and probably because, I don't know why. I mean, probably because they thought he was too big and they were afraid of him. But they have been attacking people that have been trying to expose what's really happening for years. They've been discrediting people. They've been defaming people. It's not just me. They did this to Dan Kleinman, who is starting the alternative to the American Library Association, because Dan Kleinman dared to be friends with me. And Dan Kleinman was told, and I showed the DMs on the stream I did exposing Deb Philman, who works with Moms for Liberty, who is best friends with James Lindsay. Deb Philman DM'd Dan Kleinman and said, if you don't denounce Carlin, we're going to destroy you and you're never going to be accepted and your work's never going to go anywhere. I showed the DMs on a stream I did called Deb Philman Exposed several months ago. So they have been doing this. They just haven't been doing it to Jack Posobiec. And the reason they're probably doing it now to Jack Posobiec is because Jack Posobiec has a book coming out where he's talking about communism in America, and James Lindsay sees that as competition to what he's doing, and Michael O'Fallon sees that as competition to what he's doing, and they don't want anyone other than their approved people and their approved narrative talking about what's going on.
You're seeing Trump ascendant, and you're seeing the wind coming in, and so because that win is coming in there, that suddenly you've got people who want to redefine what MAGA means. They want to redefine it away from, and by the way, I've always been like so incredibly consistent that I've always said the top two issues for the MAGA movement are simple: trade, immigration, trade and immigration, trade and immigration. And what's funny about that is that trade and immigration, and people say, what about foreign policy? I'm like, well, foreign policy is a function of trade and immigration when you think about it. It's indelibly tied to trade and immigration. So if we get that right, then
I don't agree with Jack on that, but whatever.
Sky's the absolute limit. I mean, obviously, there's other very key tenets. Law and order is one of them.
So it's really not my business.
But the bigger through line, and the reason that like when I talk about bringing back God to the public square, and when I say that's something that we're doing in addition, because, and I'm not saying that's part of the MAGA movement. I don't think the MAGA movement is a religious movement. That being said, there are a lot of elements and religious believers who are in the MAGA movement. Because you've got different levels to this. There's a cultural level and a political level. So politically, yes, we have specific policies that we want to put forward in a campaign that get into administration and then come out. But culturally, there's also the symbology that we want to return. There's also the respect for America's majority religion being Christianity that we want to restore. Respect for the Christian institution.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is an in-depth, but yeah, this is generally correct. I think Carlin means if we can unite on one issue, which is communism is our enemy, and the communists are more of our enemy than anyone who is against the communists, then it would strengthen our resolve to defeat them. Unholy alliances happen all the time. Yeah, what I'm talking about is an unholy alliance between everyone who understands that the communists are our main enemy, not each other, and that our resources need to be dedicated to actually doing things in the real world to defeat the communists. And if we can come to that agreement, I don't give a flying F what other disagreements we might have. I don't give a flying F that Jack Posobiec wants to promote Christianity. I don't care. That is his business. He is allowed to do that. I don't agree with that because I'm not a Christian. I'm not going to become a Christian. But guess what? I don't hear Jack Posobiec saying, you have to become a Christian. I hear him saying, we need to bring Christianity back into the public square and make it part of life and blah, blah, blah. And that actually is probably, I struggle with it. I think it's probably a good thing, but I also think that Christianity is a psyop. So, I struggle to say it's a good thing, but I think generally speaking, if we're talking about, do I want Christianity in the public square or do I want everything run by communists? I'm going to choose Christianity in the public square, even though I myself am not a Christian. Anyway, the point here is that if we can come to some base level of agreement to stop effing with each other and stop fighting and actually maybe even, dare I say, work together on occasion when it makes sense to fight back against the left, that's all I'm asking. It's all I've been asking for literally years. I've been saying this for literally years. Can we just focus on who the real enemy is? No, I just get attacked over and over and over again.
Institutions, respect for the church. How many churches burned down across the United States a couple years back and nobody talks about it? Nobody even talks about it. Basic stuff like that, man. And you've got Biden sending feds into Catholic churches now because they're being too Catholic. Completely insane. Completely insane. And so,
and you hear the rhetoric, it's intensifying, right?
And we see and just, I guess, on the flip side, we also see the new religion being jammed down our throats. And unfortunately, the new religion isn't just going to be defeated by nothing, right? You can't just sit there and say exactly. Oh, we're not going to do this anymore. Okay, but what are you promoting? So
exactly.
A movement can't be defined simply by what it's against. I mean, yes, you do need to be against something to have a mass movement, as Eric Hoffer writes, but you do also need to stand for something to get full traction and achieve critical mass. And if that isn't done today, then let's say, like, well, what for? Like, why should we believe? Like, great example of this. The Constitution doesn't work without God. I don't think the Constitution works without God. I really don't think it does. Because what's the point of oaths? What's the point of laws? What's the point of any of that stuff?
Honor, integrity.
If there's no God backing up all
Not an atheist,
the legitimacy of the written laws, like, they're just there. Then, I mean, if you want just raw naked power, I mean, you know, we go down that road too. I'd rather not. Like, I'd really, really, really rather not. And I have children, and you have children, and anyone who has children does not want to go down that road. I mean, we could if we have to, but I mean, I'd much prefer not to.
Right. I mean, you said it yourself, Jack. You know, MAGA is ascendant, and we are on the precipice of the biggest victory in the history of our country. But it's going to take a lot of work. And people, you know, and I come from a carny world, right? And the most valuable thing.
What's the carny world, Faz?
Well, I worked at WWE for 10 years, and the most valuable thing a lot of the times that you have is your spot.
Jack Posobiec's producer worked for the WWE. That's actually kind of great.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's people that are coming for your spot because
Yes.
they see the value there. If they can paint the picture that, oh, yeah, your perspective, because, oh, my goodness, like you're saying Christ is king every day and Christian nationalism, this and that. They're like, well, that might cost you some votes on the back end, sir. Maybe he's not the best guy. You know what? The bottom line is, you know, nobody is more loyal to MAGA than obviously Donald J. Trump, like you said, and Jack Posobiec, right? Nobody's going to take Jack Posobiec's spot.
Okay, I think we've got the basic mise-en-scène of that one, and I would usually listen to the whole thing, but we got a lot to get through today. I think we kind of understand what that is, and in general terms, I think I'm on Jack's side on that one. But James Lindsay wrote a Twitter thread responding to Jack because Jack's been calling him woke right for days. And so this came out this morning. And so I want to go through this thread and read it. I don't know why why is that staying up on the screen? Why is that up on the screen? There we go. Okay, let's go through and see what James Lindsay has to say about all this. As we're doing this, guys, I just want to remind you again, mount the like button for me, please. I mean, if you have to smash the like button, I guess go ahead and smash it, I guess. But there's a shocking disparity between the people who are watching and the people who've mounted that like button. I also want to welcome everyone watching over on Rumble. I appreciate you guys. Please make sure you're subscribed on whatever channel you're watching on. I stream Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. I hope you guys will join me again sometime. Let's see what James Lindsay has to say about Jack Posobiec's woke right, and we'll decide whether or not we agree with him. Woke right. What does that mean? What does it mean? A thread. Why is there an active measure being played on the term to assign its definition in the opposite direction to what it was originally meant to point to? Because the targets need it to get it off of them before it sticks. Okay. So first of all, James Lindsay is saying that woke is about what he says it's about, which I'm sorry is not what woke is. Woke is an authoritarian ideology. Anyone can be woke. We've known this for a long time. And what he's saying here is that the reason that Jack Posobiec is saying that James Lindsay is woke right is that Jack Posobiec is actually woke right, and Jack is running an op on James Lindsay to paint him as the woke right, and that James is the innocent victim in this, and he's just a victim, guys. He's a victim of the evil intelligence officer, Jack Posobiec, who's running an op. That definitely sounds hinged into reality, doesn't it? Let's continue. There are at least 3 things to which woke right could possibly refer. And the activism is in the ambiguity. Best not to trust people who aren't trying to be clear in their terms in such cases, of course. Wow, James. James Lindsay is actually saying that you shouldn't trust people who are clear in their terms. Does he have no self-awareness at all? James, have you read Cynical Theories? Like, have you read any of your books? Have you read any of your writings and you want to say, don't trust people who are not clear in their terms? Because literally none of your writing is clear, James. You take 15 words to say something that could easily be said in like 1 or 2 words. For example, Whiteness means capitalism. That's all that's required. Whiteness means capitalism. James Lindsay wrote a whole 15-page dissertation on this topic. And we could use that to make the goal of queer theory is to abolish capitalism. Queer theory, according to James Lindsay, is a Gnostic sex cult led by Oprah and the United Nations WEF World Conspiracy Theory in order to sexualize children, which it's not. It's not. It's actually much worse than that, but it's like, come on, bro. Like, have some self-awareness indeed. So he is saying that the term woke right could possibly be used to refer to proto-fascist right, classical liberals, or rhinos. Well, no, it can be used to refer to authoritarians who want to control what people say and what people think and what people do and what ideas they're allowed to consider and all of that. To be fair, none of these terms is particularly clear in itself, and none of them covers the idea of a conservative managerial type who supports an administrative bureaucracy, though I think Rhino comes closest on that point. None quite captured the "you hurt my feeling" vibe either. James, you are the walking effing epitome of "you hurt my feelings." God damn. James can't even define the basic meaning for woke. You must be pleased, though, Carlin, that more and more people from both the left and the right are now talking about communism, even though it's not quite correct. I mean, I would like them to be hinging into reality on it, but you're right, it's a good first step. So who the woke right is depends on what you think woke means. There's all the play. The hard proto-fascist right think woke means a progressive extension of classical liberalism through modern liberalism expressing itself as progressive neoconservatism. That's very clear. A lot of people who are new to this whole Frankist thing think woke right means rhinos because rhinos are blatantly controlled opposition to the woke Marxist class that's running the show. Rhinos aren't woke, though. They're either weak, fools, or corrupt, so that's mostly wrong. Well, I mean, rhinos can absolutely be woke if they're engaging in authoritarianism and telling people what to say and what to do and what ideas they can consider. Yeah. Word salad. Yep. None of this means anything. To be fair, again, rhinos do support the managerial administrative apparatus that is more or less completely captured by woke ideology, though it seems very much like they either don't know how or lack the will to get rid of it for any variety of bad or worse reasons. Okay, I actually agree with James on this one. When he's right, he's right. The actual definition of woke is having awakened to a critical consciousness. No. Wrong. That is a political narrative that James is painting in order to sell more books so that he can be the lead anti-woke expert. When you boil down what woke means to its bare essence, and you could certainly categorize people who have awakened to a critical consciousness or have been indoctrinated into social justice, you could certainly include those in this category that I'm about to give you. But James is like giving the Marcuse, the Marcuse definition of woke, because that suits James's motives in order to make money. When in real life, because we don't allow Marcuse to dictate definitions, okay? Marcuse might be James's god, it's not ours. When you break woke down to the bare essence of what people who are woke try to do, it is to control every aspect of your thought. It's to control your language, your thoughts, your ideas, the ideas you're allowed to consider. It's authoritarian. This is a very clever grift. Look at all those interactions and hire on the lies. I wonder what his Twitter revenue is. Well, you know what's funny about that is James always refused to get a blue check until the advertising share came in. And then James was more than willing to get a blue check after he got that ad money. But he wouldn't get a blue check before that, but he definitely got a blue check after that. The actual definition of woke is having awakened to a critical consciousness. That's not it, but we're playing James's play pretend for a minute, which is a belief that society is fundamentally shaped by structural power dynamics that generate group injustices, and that one's positionality with respect to said power determines one's validity. Guys, even if this was the definition of woke, which it's not when you're dealing in the real world stuff, do normal people understand what any of that means? I'm sorry, didn't James just tell us but a few tweets ago? Best not to trust people who are not trying to be clear in their terms in such cases. If we go back to this, and we say the actual definition of woke is having awakened to a critical consciousness, which is a belief that society is fundamentally shaped by the structural power dynamics that generate group injustices, and that one's positionality with respect to said power determines one's validity. Is that clear? Did normal people understand that? James is specifically designing this stuff so that normal people will never understand what he's saying. Because if normal people understood what he was saying, he wouldn't be the expert anymore. They wouldn't need to continue buying his books and listening to his podcast, desperate to understand what they're saying. I have people who tell me all the time. Actually, Misa, who's in the chat, said this to me just the other day on Twitter. He said, I listened to James for years and years and years. I didn't understand any of this. And then I found your content and you broke it down simply and explained everything in like a week. Stony Baloney has told me this too. So many people have told this to me. Because I explain things in clear, direct language that is broken down in the simplest possible way. James can't do that. This is all he can do. So you can get to the other two meanings of woke right, which are being pushed hard right now in kind of a blurry way by defining woke in terms of the way it applies itself. Oh my God, what a concept. Not its praxis, but its uses of power. Alternatively, you could use the real meaning of woke. James, I would rather use a definition that is hinged into reality that normal people understand. If we use the real meaning of woke, to be woke right means you have to be on the right and obsessed with power and consider it to be deterministic of society. Do you notice how James is saying there's the real definition that only James is aware of and that everyone else is just making shit up? This, according to James, is the real definition. Why is this the real definition? Because James Lindsay said it. I'm sorry, who crowned James Lindsay as the determiner of all definitions? That kind of seems pretty fucking woke, James, if I'm honest about it. You believing that you are the final and only arbiter of the real definition of woke. In fact, James, that kind of sounds fucking Gnostic if we're going to get into brass tacks. It sounds Gnostic for you to say that you are the only one with the hidden knowledge of what the real and true definition of woke means. And that everyone else who does not agree with your real definition of what woke means, they just don't have access to the hidden knowledge that James Lindsay has access to. If we use the real meaning of woke, it has to be a woke right. To be a woke right means you have to be on the right and obsessed with power and consider it to be deterministic of society. Feel you have a more valid claim on power than others. Hang on, James. You're literally saying that you have a more valid claim on the definition of woke than anyone else. Like, he has no self-awareness at all. James literally feels he has a more valid claim on the definition of woke than others. He also believes he has a moral obligation to seize and wield power. This tweet is about James. Holy shit. Does everyone see that? Yeah, James found the secret hidden knowledge. Exactly. This is James' inflated ego. Exactly. Rhinos might sometimes be woke, in that they're actually Democrats or communists who have infiltrated, but they're not right in any recognizable sense, hence the acronym Republicans in name only. James isn't a Republican, and now he's saying who's Republican in name only. Classical liberals aren't woke in any regard at all for deep reasons. Bro. Classical liberals can be woke as shit if they're trying to control what people can say and what people can do and what ideas they can consider. Classical liberalism being a philosophy, like, okay, serious question for a second. Is there anyone on the internet still calling themselves a classical liberal that isn't an asshole or a grifter or a shill? For the record, I never called myself a classical liberal. I thought it was just like a ridiculous term to begin with. Now, of course, I'm an anarcho-capitalist because I hate everyone and I just want everyone to leave me alone and go away and I just want my private property and that's it. But is there anyone on the internet that still calls themselves a classical liberal that isn't a dick? Classical liberalism being a philosophy predicated on the centrality of individual liberty and the securing of individual rights against both others and the collective, particularly when incorporated, especially in the state, is wary of power and doesn't crave it. Yeah, being a classical liberal is wary of power, but Bill Maher is a classical liberal. Tim Pool's a classical liberal. James is stuck in like 4 years ago. The fundamental axiom of classical liberalism is that no one deserves political authority, though it can be earned through demonstrative capacity and loaned from people who allow it in practice, through some method like election or voluntary assent. Classical liberals are not afraid of power, nor are they unwilling to use power, but they are realistic about the nature of power, which is that it's both dangerous and addictive, and when it is amassed too centrally, it will always violate others, perhaps at infinite cost. What the fuck is James even talking about? What does any of this have to do with anything? Classical liberals also reject the idea of an enlightened insight into reality. The fundamental premise of classical liberal thought is every proposition I encounter is likely wrong and must be checked against the most objective sources available with care. Hang on. James Lindsay is arguing that it is his modus operandi to check against the most objective sources available. Guys, remind me, what did James Lindsay do when we all tried to show James Lindsay primary source video evidence of what real queer Marxist activists are doing in the real world? What did James Lindsay do when we presented him with literal primary source evidence, the most objective evidence that you can possibly have? He's saying that a classical liberal says that evidence must be checked against the most objective sources available with care. What did he do when we tried to show him primary source video evidence? He blocked us. He blocked us. He blocked us. He deleted our information so that no one else can see it. That is, yup, he blocks it and then he steals it anyway. Yep. Real classical liberal, James. There's simply no way to understand classical liberalism, even as a conflict resolution schema that minimizes physical violence by directing political conflict into other areas, discourse, economics, as woke, and the people who try as liars and fools. Oh my God, this literally says nothing. Yup, James blocked Misa on his YouTube channel for quoting actual quotes from books. Can you imagine that? Someone who claims to think about the truth, Misa is quoting directly from fucking books. And James is like, block, delete, block, delete, block, delete. He called it bait. Yes, James thinks that objective primary source evidence is bait because it doesn't say what James wants it to say. Blocks everyone that disagrees with him. No, a lot of people here listen. How many people here listened to James before they found me? Yo, James should smoke weed. James would be much more relaxed and much better at this if he smoked weed. Yup, James not only blocked Reagan for correctly defining queer theory, James also tweeted out to his 500,000 followers that everyone should block Reagan because she was bait. Let's see. Rottweiler listened to James first. Tayton did. Joseph did. Jane did, Gloria, Maria. Oh, you found me through big tech? Well, we'll try not to hold that against you. Tayton only clicked on Socialism Saturday because he thought I was a socialist. Common story. Common story. Chelsea listened to James before they found me. Yep. People are people, though, and lots of people let their emotions lead their logic. This is a woke trait, of course, because woke is a religion of pathos. As an ideal, classical liberalism tends towards dispassionate. Duggan defines fascism explicitly based in pathos. James is saying that you're woke if you put your emotions before the facts. Bro. Oh, wow. That's going back. You found me when I did a presentation about critical race theory to a local political group in New Hampshire. James blocked Joss Randall and you never even interacted with him? How does that work? Man. See, this is a common story. Chelsea has said earlier in the chat, she listened to James before she found me. She said she wasted a lot of time on James, and then she found me and has learned so much in warp speed. Because all I do is show the trainings and show the primary source receipts, and I show people what they're actually saying. I mean, I spoke at AmFest too. I did a panel with fucking James at AmFest. We were on the same stage. Anyway. Classical liberals, following Greek ideals, primarily recognize that men easily become slaves to their passions, but have the capacity to temper their passions with reason. Woke and fascism see pathos passions as a path to liberation from the duress of oppression. For my money, then, if we're going to allow a term, isn't that interesting wording for someone that's being careful about writing a 17-tweet thread about this? If we're going to allow a term like woke right, who the fuck is James to say what terms are and are not allowed? Who is he to say that term is acceptable, that term is not acceptable? Because again, like, let's just scroll up here because I seem to remember just a few tweets back. Where did he say it? Where did he say it? Well, I don't know exactly where he said. I'm not going to read all these tweets to find it, but James explicitly has been talking about how classical liberals don't want power, and then he's actually has the gall to say, I'm allowed to say what is allowed. Oh, what was it? It was like the real. Hang on, I know which one it was. Hang on, it was the real definition of woke. If we use the real, here's what he said. If you so he's basically saying you're woke if you feel you have a more valid claim on power than others and believe you have a moral obligation to wield that power. James is defining this as woke. And then just a couple tweets later, James says, if we're going to allow a term, how is that not wielding power to say that you and only you have the ability to allow or disallow a term? For my money, then, if we are going to allow a term like woke right, it must apply to those who seek power and promote a cathartic proto-fascist solution to the woke problem more than it can apply to anyone else. although the rhinos are a fair runner-up, though already named. I listened to James a few years ago when he was talking about those spoof articles he made with Helen Pluckrose and Peter Boghossian. He was really funny then. I am so done with him now. Yeah, he was great then. He was awesome then. James used to be awesome. For those who never knew James in like the before times, James used to be awesome. I dedicated the entire last chapter in my book, Actively Unwoke, The Ultimate Guide for Fighting Back Against the Woke Insanity in Your Life, to James. It literally is called Fight Like James Lindsay. And I meant every word of it, and I don't take it back, because when James was awesome, there was no one better. There was no one working harder. There was no one hustling more. There was no one else out there doing what James was doing. He used to be great. And then he got involved with Moms for Liberty and the conservative grift fest, and he descended into grifter fucking downward spiral into Gnosticism. The characteristic of woke is that the word constructed of power and those dispossessed from it can band together in solidarity and take it so their vision of justice can be imposed on the world until people bend themselves to it. Inversion of praxis. Goddamn right, I always have real receipts of the real activists. None of this pinky swear, trust me, bro. My judgment, then, is that the people who are pushing woke right, active measures right now, are the woke right, and they're doing it specifically because the term is going to stick to them if they don't deflect it now, because it's true. James is literally doing neener. Like, I know you are, but what am I? I know this is an entire thread where James is saying, I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? I know you are. That's what he, oh my fucking God. And he's projecting all of his bullshit along with it. Okay, this thread actually said nothing of value. Thank you, James, for that. Now, of course, we have the good Christian Carrie Smith. If you don't know who Carrie is, don't worry about it. But Carrie made my life miserable for a really long time. And I just want to point out that Carrie is retweeting James because Carrie is on James's cock. Like all the other MILFs. Yeah. James, no, you. Fenderbean, I honestly found Carlin from seeing so many attacks on her. I wanted to know what was so bad about what she was saying. It ended up exposing a lot of people as frauds. Fenderbean, I adore you. I hope you're doing well. Let's see what Carrie had to say about James's thread where he said nothing. James is exactly right. I first started seeing woke right being used carelessly by those who don't think about what words mean. I've since seen it picked up by well-meaning people who seem to be using it to describe a myriad of things, but none of them meaning social justice ideology, because Carrie is a former SJW and she will never let you forget that she was a former SJW, because Carrie's entire brand is built on being a former SJW. And so if we're talking about woke, Carrie has to position it as being social justice ideology, because Carrie gets no benefit from talking about woke if it's not about being a social justice ideology, because Carrie was a former SJW and she will tell everyone that the same story over and over and over and over and over and over and over again for years, just going on all the shows, repeating exactly the same. I was a former SJW and I learned from the error of my ways. Hasn't grown at all, has learned nothing. But she was a former SJW, and so woke has to mean social justice ideology, or I can't go on shows and make money. Alt-left, identitarianism, identity Marxism, cultural Marxism. It has been called all these things, but none was as widely used and as effective at illuminating the social justice ideology as woke was. There's an effort now to muddy the waters and obscure what it means, to render it meaningless. Just as many terms like woman and harm have been misused and rendered meaningless. Rendering it meaningless makes it less effective in illuminating the specific ideology to which it refers. And if we do that, I can't make money going on shows talking about how I'm a former social justice warrior, guys. Okay, I improv that last part. I don't use the phrase woke right because it makes no sense to me. I don't see any movement on the right pushing social justice ideology. Really? Really? All right, Carrie. If what you mean is cancel culture, then say cancel culture. If what you mean is authoritarian, say authoritarian. Hey, I agree on that. These words already exist. These are aspects of woke, but they are not in and of themselves what woke means. Be specific. Well, she's not blind to it. She just knows what's writing her checks and getting her followers and clout on the internet. And really, that's what's more important in the land of Carrie Smith. But it's nice to see her piping in. All right, let's go back to this because we need to now celebrate that Stony Baloney is famous. This is from earlier today. This is Jack Posobiec talking with Joshua, who is the co-author of his book, who we're going to see on the channel next week. I know it's a long show today, guys. We got a lot to get through, but I appreciate everyone hanging out. Again, if you have not yet mounted the like button, now is a great time to mount the like button. We're going to be watching more of Jack Posobiec and his interview with Joshua earlier, where they're continuing to talk about the woke right. Let's check this out.
With My Patriot Supply. Since 2008, Patriots are attack-free.
Hang on, I get through the ad.
Reviewer.
Okay.
But has not yet been widely released. Unhumans, the Secret History of Communist Revolutions and How to Crush Them. And so Joshua and I have written this book. The book has not been released. We sent it to a very tight select few of reviewers, but has not yet been widely released in any way, shape, or fashion. And yet we have found ourselves completely under attack by a group of people that, for lack of a better term, or perhaps this is the best term to describe them,
It looks
the
so
woke
cool. Come
right.
on.
Joshua.
I'm so jealous of this branding. I'm jealous and I'm annoyed that I didn't think of it. Listen, man, I got a lot of cool branding. I got a lot of cool merch. I can't be upset at the stuff that I have, but I'm annoyed that they thought of it first. But that's a me problem, not a them problem. It looks so cool, though.
Explain to me what the woke right is and why are they attacking this book so much, which of course they haven't even read.
Yeah, the book looks cool.
Appreciate you having me on, Jack. Yes, so the woke right is a group of self-proclaimed right or center-right or even center characters with some...
I'm not going to say that. Of course, like it's cool to have other people doing cool stuff. Okay, I'm happy about it. I am happy about it. I'm just also jealous. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying I'm jealous that they did so good.
Right-wing and right-wing adjacent talking points and claims and associations, but they have a little bit of wokeness going on, or perhaps a little bit more than just a little bit, but half woke. They're the types of people who are concerned with how things look. For example, they'll say things like, well, the Democrats are the real racists, is what someone who has a little bit of wokeness would be concerned with.
I agree.
They're the ones who say things like, well, don't be offensive, don't go on the offensive, just focusing on when they go low, we go high. This type of language that doesn't lead to calls to action besides buy my merch, get my mug, get my shirt. Subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my channel's channel, subscribe to the premium channel, subscribe to the premium channel plus and get extras and bonuses. The call to action of the content funnel of the woke right leads not necessarily to actual sociopolitical change that affects real world issues like the economy and immigration, which are the two key issues for the right, winning issues for the right, I ought to say, but they focus on everything else except that which will win. It seems as if the woke right is concerned with snatching defeat from the jaws of victory at every single turn that they possibly could.
I want to read something here. This is by a Twitter user called Stony Baloney.
Stony Baloney!
And you know, with a name like that, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Oh wait, do you guys have the screenshot? Let's put up the screen. I didn't realize you had it.
Yay! Stony Baloney is famous. Jack Posobiec is taking advice from our boy. Go follow Stony Baloney on Twitter. Yay! Remember, Human Centipede is Stony Baloney. Yeah, Bot. Well, Bot's at the dentist, I think. We're gonna have Bot make Stony Baloney a certificate. It'll be fine. Here, I'm gonna screenshot this so I can do it for later. Now this is actually a pretty good screenshot. Both of them have good smiles. We're gonna commemorate this.
Put up the screenshot. So I'm just going to read this off the thing. Here is the starter list of tactics utilized by the woke, both on the left and right. Call someone names until you can control them. Well, I call people names too, so that's fair. But listen to this next part.
Hang on. Josh Randall, you don't even follow me. Why are you following Stony Baloney, but you aren't even following me? You DM'd me the other day, but you aren't following me. I feel kind of like, I don't know. It's like you're not living up to like manservant, stat. You don't even follow me on Twitter, bro. Like, what's going on?
Assume the moral high ground and talk down to them. And then 3, accuse you of doing exactly what they are doing. Stony Baloney had a whole thread about this where he said, I haven't even read this book, talking about Unhumans yet you shouldn't need a philosophy major to understand the commie. How many podcasts can we sell to a soccer mom?
Mm-hmm.
Do hardworking American families have time for Gnostic nonsense?
So
Can my
true.
son's mother go to the school board,
So
the
true.
teacher, or state legislature and demand they stop being critical constructivists? No, she cannot. Can she even explain to our children how Foucault or Marcuse are affecting them in the classroom? Where does this end? And the question is, of course, if all of our focus is on podcast
Thank
clicks
you.
and sitting around in the library and holding these academic debates, well, guess who's going to win? It's going to be the Unhumans. It's going to be the communists. It is now time to speak plainly. And if you don't have a clear call to action that every family and regular person can take, then you don't have any right to claim dominance over the space. Anyone attempting to suppress any anti-communist voice deserves nothing but our contempt. Now, I don't know that I would go that far, but read.
So Jack Posobiec isn't quite at the point yet where he understands how many people have been trying to suppress information. That's okay. The rest of that thread was brilliant. Well done, Stony Baloney.
In the thread, we should question their motives. And so, I think there's a lot here, but really, Joshua, I want to ask you about the thing you just said there. And I had tweeted this earlier as well, that of course the woke right are not completely woke. They are against the full woke, but they are half woke. What does that mean? What is this idea of half woke?
It means that they still adopt the oppressor versus oppressed mental model of the woke left, where there are obviously good guys and bad guys. And when there's a disparate impact, meaning when, let's say, this percentage of the population is this demographic group, but they only have this much percentage of the wealth, well, you better know it. There's certainly some oppression there. There's certainly nothing to say of individual choices and preferences there. So they agree with the oppressor versus oppressed mental model of the situation, that assessment. And they also agree with the key one-word philosophical point that the woke left does make, which is should. Well, things should just not be that way. They should be fair. They should be equal. And so the woke right agrees with that and say, well, they should. We just have some different ideas on how to create that. And so they adopt the same starting point. They agree with the same frame versus understanding from the beginning that just because bad things happen in this world doesn't mean that there's some grand conspiracy causing them to happen. Just because there's oppression doesn't necessarily mean that there was an oppressor. I did a Twitter space this past week talking about how critical theory always looks for the victim and the victimizer. Well, sometimes just bad things happen. It's in the Old Testament and the New Testament that it rains on the just and the unjust. That doesn't mean that there's a rainmaker conspiracy in the sky causing it to cause rain to befall those people who are poor. That's just how things work.
I'll throw another one at you. The poor will always be with you.
100%. 100%. Yes. And in Unhumans, we talk about how in chapters 12 and 13, we do give actual plans of action, strategy, and tactics that the normal everyday person can do to improve their lives, to improve their family's life, to improve their community, and even their country in the face of the forces of anti-civilization that are doing what they can to launch anarcho-tyrannical micro-revolutions against good and honest people.
Communists.
But we also talk about the original purpose of the left. This is something that the woke left unfortunately gets away from. They're focusing on blaming and assigning varying levels of that blame to different identities.
Yeah, what they're not saying that I would like to say them they would like them to say a little bit more clearly, and maybe we can gently suggest this to Joshua next week and see how he feels about it. What I would really like for them to be saying is that the left believes that capitalism is always the oppressor in every situation. There's not any boogeyman that they consider to be oppressor that isn't a capitalist or the bourgeois or like whatever. All roads lead back to that. We would like him to be a little bit more clear about what that means, how they define capitalism, which is private property ownership, what private property ownership means. It means your home, your business, your land, your apartment rentals, your intellectual property, your parental rights, and your individual liberties. We'd like them to be a little bit more specific, but you got to take what you can get.
Entity groups. But the original purpose of the left was to be a deployment of compassion. A deployment of compassion. The right has been, as Scott Adams would say, the systems over goals crowd. What's pragmatic? What's going to work in a Lindy way for the next several decades, centuries, to make this a great civilization to live in? Now, there are those who are poor. There are those who are suffering, those who are miserable, both from consequences of their own choices and those that are not of their own choices. And they were men like John Patterson from my same city here in Dayton, Ohio, where he made life better as much as he could for widows, for orphans, for the inner city poor, for the working class. Because he also recognized as a Christian that's the right thing to do, but he also recognized that that would prevent a communist revolution in the United States. That was during the first Red Scare period, by the way, which is very little talked about and understood. But it was men like John Patterson who had that compassionate understanding that just because someone is in a bad situation, it doesn't mean that they should stay there, or that it was their fault, or that it was somebody else's fault. And that there is good that can be done. And you do not need a government to come in there, start taxing everybody, and make it happen. You could be a great man of history like John Patterson and fix it yourself.
Well, and this is also where we see Teddy Roosevelt fighting off some of this in his presidency. Of course, Teddy Roosevelt ascends to the presidency in the midst of the quote. It's funny that they call it a Red Scare, yet actually we had a president of the United States named William McKinley who was assassinated by an anarcho-socialist, and yet they claim that, oh, it was all just a bunch of right-wing fears. I'm like, the president was shot and killed by one of these guys who was a little Emma Goldman toady. And yet we're told that, oh, no, Leon Czolgosz, he was just don't worry about him. It's no big deal. No, obviously, no, there was a huge issue going on at the time. Teddy Roosevelt fought hard to tamp it down, number one, using law and order and deporting people like Emma Goldman and others who were foreign born, and at the same time going through, but then also, as you say, going in and trying to understand what the grievances of the workers were and saying, you know what, maybe we can have things like weekends. Maybe we should push for things like this. Maybe we should push for these types of conditions to be done global or to be done nationwide. He broke up he was not a corporatist in any way, obviously. And and obviously the corporatists hate Teddy Roosevelt because of this, because he was a populist. He was an extreme populist. And so this is the difference between Teddy Roosevelt and, say, Ronald Reagan, who was not a populist. He was far more corporatist in many of his domestic
Right. I think
policies.
they continue after their break. Hang on. We're going to go through the commercials. We're not going to watch that. I think they keep talking after this, though.
Today, Moink runs their business from a town of 97 people in West Pork Chop Box doesn't best bacon you'll ever see. Pre-Trump, pre-woke consensus. They're constantly banging on about Ronald Reagan. They're going after
hang on.
and the human ISEC back now. Joshua, what's really going on here? So these guys, they're trying to hold up this like pre-Trump, pre-woke consensus. They're constantly banging on about Ronald Reagan. They're going after me. They're going after you. They hate our book. They're going after the Claremont Institute, things like this. This guy, Michael O'Fallon, that I've referred.
Hang on. Why do they hate the Claremont Institute? I just don't have enough. I don't have enough like knowledge about this I need someone to educate me about why Michael O'Fallon and James Lindsay hate the Claremont Institute. I'm sure someone knows. We are not discussing the Jews right now. We're not doing that. I know you want me to do that. But we're not doing that today. Okay? Relax. You can go to Cozy if you want to talk about that right now.
To as Mr. Beef Sweats really kicked all this off on Sunday. We did a live stream yesterday speaking about this. And, a lot of this, I understand, I do understand a lot of the dynamics here is that, and here's a actual photo of Mr. Beef.
I didn't see this part. Holy shit. That's Michael O'Fallon. Again, Michael O'Fallon is the checkbook behind New Discourses and James Lindsay. Fucking based Jack Persoman. I love how the two of them are just acting like this is totally normal to put this Photoshop picture up of Michael O'Fallon. I do love meme warfare. I absolutely do.
Beef Sweats, thinking about brisket. Well, we are finding out where the briskets are buried. And my phone's been ringing off the hook about, from people who have worked with him in the past and have just really nothing but negative things to say.
Jack.
They say this guy
Spill
has
the
been,
tea.
well, I don't even want to get into it. I don't even want to get into it because it's somebody else's dirty laundry, but I'll say it this way. I haven't heard a lot of positives. I've not heard a lot of positives. And the simple fact that people keep reaching out with more to say kind of speaks for itself. But what's really going on here, I think, is that you've got people specifically who have lost out in terms of the narrative, and kind of more to your point, they're not interested actually in a call for action because these people actually live off of having someone to fight against.
Yes.
And so should one side, the left or right, actually win, these people would kind of be out of a job. Isn't that right?
Yup.
Yes, that's right. Moments ago, I posted if Conservative Inc., let's call them, if they were to achieve actual sociopolitical victories in the so-called culture war, would there be a reason for Conservative Inc. to exist anymore?
Exactly.
Oh, the follow the money heuristic then becomes explanatory and also predictive. We can see what's going to happen, how the both institutional and kind of independent, but let's say fundraising seeking class.
Listen, man. James Lindsay, before he was doing New Discourses, had quit his job in academia to be a massage therapist. And I'm not shit-talking massage therapists at all. Massage therapists are great. They do important work. It's a hard job. But he went from being a massage therapist to then running New Discourses on the checkbook of Michael O'Fallon. You're going to you cannot tell me that James is not making significantly more money today than he was when he was a massage therapist. If the need for New Discourses were to go away tomorrow because the problem had been solved, what is James Lindsay going to do? Is he going to go back to being a massage therapist, which would be fine? I'm not shit-talking it, but if the problem tomorrow was going to be solved, James Lindsay would take a giant ass pay cut. Now I'm going to contrast that with me because it is my show. I can make points about me. Before I started doing this stuff, I was an industrial organizational psychologist that was making $10,000 a day minimum going and doing corporate training and keynotes. Now, I didn't do corporate training every single day. I'm not saying I had a gig lined up every single day to do this, but I had more than enough. And it's an incredibly lucrative industry. And if I ever want to go back and do organizational psychology again, I can do it very easily. It would not be a problem. I took a break from my fucking lucrative career that I got a literal PhD for, that I built a practice in, that I was doing by myself for almost 10 years before I landed on the internet. And I took a massive ass pay cut to do this. You do not get rich talking about socialism on the internet when you are grassroots funded. The only way that you get rich talking about socialism on the internet is if you have someone with a checkbook like Michael O'Fallon. And I refuse to do that, because the minute that I take money like that is the minute that I'm beholden to someone else. And I don't want to be beholden to someone else. I want to be able to be beholden to my audience and to telling the truth, no matter where the truth goes. So if this problem were solved tomorrow, do you know what I would do? I would go back to doing corporate training. I would go back to doing what I was doing before, and it wouldn't be a problem. And I'd build up my business again, and I'd make a ton more money than I'm making now, and I'd be able to have vacations, and I would take weekends off, and I would actually be able to live a normal, I'd be able to go to the gym. I would be able to live a normal goddamn life. I want this problem solved. I do not care what is required to do it. I don't actually think it's possible the way things are now, but I'm not working this to perpetuate this in perpetuity unless the problem isn't solved. The only way that I keep making content about socialism on the internet is if people need content about socialism on the internet. And if that need goes away because we have solved the goddamn problem, then I'm perfectly fine with that. James needs the problem to perpetuate. Michael O'Fallon needs the problem to perpetuate, because this is how they're making their money and how they're staying famous. Does everyone understand that? Most nonprofits are like that, by the way. Most nonprofits that say they're trying to solve a problem are not really trying to solve a problem. They're trying to stay in business.
Of center and center right or so-called classical liberal influencers, what they seem to be doing is to try to siphon attention, energy, and besides cash, money, dopamine from the right, who would otherwise focus on creating actual victories. So in an organization that does seem to be actually doing good things in the world with their cash is Moms for Liberty. And they're despised by both the far left
and Josh, we gotta talk about Moms for Liberty. Thank you, Devil's Cock Brewing Company. What an interesting name. I appreciate you. Is he about to say nice things about Moms for Liberty? Hang on. That would be a mistake.
Dopamine from the right, who would otherwise focus on creating actual victories. So in an organization that does seem to be actually doing good things in the world with their cash is Moms for Liberty. And they're despised by both the far left and the far right, it seems like, because they're actually getting into the trenches doing real world.
There are members of Moms for Liberty that are doing things in the real world. The Moms for Liberty National Organization has done more to inhibit the fight against the left than any other organization in the world. I'm not talking about normal people. Normal moms and dads that are involved in Moms for Liberty and they're going to school board meetings and they're running for things, they're fine. They're doing good work. I applaud every normal person out there that's doing normal things. Moms for Liberty as a national organization is retarded. They are just as bad as James. They are just as woke as James. James is fucking in their pocket. Joshua, and again, I say this with all due respect, where do you think James went woke? Because it was when he started working for Moms for Liberty and started getting that Moms for Liberty dollars. That's when it happened. So, no, I do not agree with his assessment on this. Listen, we're putting that aside. We're letting bygones be bygones. It's okay to let things go, because if Jack Posobiec actually wants to rally people to do things in the real world, that's actually more important than any hurt feelings that I might have. And so we're letting it go. But my perception of Jack before this was that he was not rallying people in the real world, to be quite honest. But if Jack is going to make a big deal about rallying people in the real world, fucking fine.
Work. Whereas there are content creators, if you look at their calls to action, what are they? It's to support my Patreon. It's to support this. It's to subscribe to this. It's to buy this. It's to get my supplements. It's to do some sort of action that accrues attention, influence, and financial value to themselves personally. And then you realize, oh, this is what's called classically a grift. It's the problem with nonprofits.
Yeah.
Generally, a nonprofit that is too effective solves the problem, and then it goes out of business. Now, one could argue it was never in business because it's a nonprofit. So what the nonprofit has to do is continuously agitate
Exactly.
and not solve the problem. Just be real loud about the problem.
And it's worth saying on the topic of Moms for Liberty, it's worth reminding everyone that Moms for Liberty started out as a group of parents that was fighting back against COVID restrictions in school. That was the original purpose of Moms for Liberty. Moms for Liberty shifted their focus to book banning when the pandemic went away. Because if they didn't shift their focus, all of the money would have dried up. All of the fundraising would have dried up because there was no longer a problem. They literally solved the problem. And so they had to go, oh, wait, how are we going to continue to grift on this? Oh, book banning. We can talk about this forever. And if you guys don't know why I'm against the book stuff, it's because it is a complete and total distraction towards the larger problem. It is also not a battle you're ever going to win because the left is funded almost entirely on publishing. They publish so many books, it would make your head spin, books that you've never heard of. So if you pull one book out of school, if you put all this effort in to get one book out of school, guess what? They're going to replace it with 5 more that you don't know about, and it's going to make absolutely no difference at all. But you know what it does? Book banning keeps the right in a perpetual state of chasing its tail. It also is a massive fundraiser for the left, so they're actually helping the left in this regard. The left loves Moms for Liberty. They love them. They talk about them all the time. They use them to raise money. They use them to rally people. They use them to organize. They use them all the effing time. Not because they're afraid of Moms for Liberty, because they're not. Moms for Liberty is like their best friend. So it's a battle you're never going to win. You don't have the infrastructure to do it. It is never going to happen. And while the right is in a constant state of chasing their tail on the book banning stuff, guess what the left is doing? Integrating woke nonsense into the curriculum that your kids are learning separately from the books that is actually more impactful. So they're still indoctrinating your kids. Nothing has changed. It's actually much worse than you think it is, but you're just running around trying to get these books banned and complaining about the books. And guess what, guys? Most of your kids probably had no interest in reading the books until you started trying to pull them out of libraries. Kids probably didn't care until they were like, why are the adults trying to ban this book? What's going on? And then they're all reading the books that they were never going to read in the first place. So, lots of problems with it. It is not hinged into reality at all. I'm sorry if that offends people, but facts are facts.
Well, and
to get attention.
Exactly. And in this, there's a lot of activity that's exactly like the woke. Oh, we're going to gatekeep. We're going to cancel. Don't read that book. That book is
Moms for Liberty literally has a blacklist. You want to talk about cancel culture on the right? The national organization literally has a blacklist.
a naughty, naughty book. That title is a mean title. You're not allowed to say unhumans. Guy, there was a tweet from this guy, Prince of Trailer, someone asking what exactly is the woke right? And he says, guys, don't sink to their level. Guys, don't call them commies. Guys, don't say mean things about people who hate you and laugh at you while you die. Guys, here's Bill Maher dunking on libs. Guys, here's a New York Times article. I mean, like, that's just, I feel like that's the perfect mentality right there.
Yeah.
That's also part and parcel of this, because, you know, they're like, Reagan wouldn't do that. Reagan wouldn't do that. But, you know, it also serves a wider purpose, I would say, in that they don't actually have the ability to formulate any solutions other than just
Correct.
kind of repeating over and over, well, we just need to follow the Constitution, man. Oh, we just need to get back to conservatism, or we need to get back to classical liberalism. And then they'll say, just follow the Constitution. Like that's all it takes. Like, yeah, well, we've been trying that and saying that for 50 years. And where has it gotten us?
Correct.
It's gotten us to the point where children's genitalia are being chopped off. Trans kids
That is
are
right.
raping non-trans kids and they're not trans at all. They're actually pretending to be trans or whatever it is, pretending to be females, and are raping kids in high schools. And we've got all sorts of insanity run amok. And you think just running around going, follow the Constitution is actually going to conserve anything. That's number one. Number two, because it's very performative, because a lot of this is theatrics that they perform for the donor class rather than actually attempting to achieve socio-political victories, as you say, rightly so, that it doesn't quite get to the heart of the problems that we're facing now.
Is it possible that, listen, I had Jack Posobiec blocked on Twitter before this because I did not have a positive opinion of him before I saw him fighting this fight. But maybe things have changed, and that's a good thing, and we have to allow for people to surprise us, right? Is it possible that Jack Posobiec is so independent of all sources of like mainstream funding now that he just doesn't give an F anymore? Is that actually possible? I mean, I always had the perception that Jack Posobiec was doing pretty well with what he was doing. He has all these, partnerships, all these people he works with. I always thought he was doing pretty well, but there always seemed to be something that was kind of like, he wasn't, here's what I'm trying to say. What Jack Posobiec just did was basically say, F you guys, to a lot of the conservative establishment. And there are a lot of people who are not going to like that Jack Posobiec is doing this. I'm not saying he's perfect. That's not what I'm saying, but we have to work with people who are coming to the party, okay? Why is he saying F you guys all of a sudden? Like, what happened? I don't know the answer to that. But he's telling the truth. This is actually a really base take. He's not wrong. But I don't recall him talking like this 2 years ago.
It's not the 1980s anymore, bro. It's not the 1990s anymore. And perhaps, as much as we hate to say it, maybe there were some structural issues going on in the 80s and 90s that started in the 1960s, which you and I talk about in the book at length, that led to the situation we're in now.
But okay, that's fine.
And we also have to ask ourselves if, given that immigration and the economy are the galvanizing issues of the right, and the right continually loses on both of those issues at every turn, still following their principles, if the conservative principles you followed brought you to this, of what use were the conservative principles? And that seems to be where the woke right has a public freakout, whether it's airing their dirty laundry or their dirty dishes, in the case with some. I think it's worth exposing the resistance to actual solutions and see if there's more to this than meets the eye. And on that matter, I think it would be wise and fun to have a spirited conversation or debate, let's call it.
Whoa.
Between myself and Michael O'Fallon.
I hope you do.
I think that'd be a great public service. What do you think, Jack?
Okay, so
there is no way in this universe that James Lindsay and Michael O'Fallon are going to debate those two, but I would love to see it. I would pay money to see it. I hope they do a good job. I don't think it'll ever happen because James thinks this is all beneath him, and he thinks that Jack Posobiec and Joshua are really the ones that are woke because they're calling him woke, and isn't it woke to call someone woke, bro? But I would love to see a debate between them. Especially if Jack Posobiec brings this attitude. We would definitely stream that. James would lose so badly. Has James ever debated? Can anyone has James ever debated anyone? Let me know if you can think of an instance when he has. We'll watch it.
I want to get this straight. You are publicly calling out Michael O'Fallon for a debate.
That's correct.
What are your preconditions?
Live streamed. Besides that,
Live
no
stream?
preconditions. Let's live stream it.
So no editing.
No editing.
Live stream it, no editing.
Yeah. What do you say,
Look,
Michael? What do you say?
I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. I think you guys should have at it. More than willing, by the way, to offer. I wouldn't even moderate. I could give you guys the stream. I don't really think that you need it.
They should be challenging James as well. I don't understand why they're not challenging James. Maybe this is a strategic move because they know James won't do it. But Michael O'Fallon is like, is a guy that has like that level of hubris that he might do it out of like pride. We would still watch it. I don't care.
A moderator, to be honest, but I'd be more than willing to just give you guys the show. I'd give you guys the show. I'd give you the stream. I'd say, here it is. I could just be here making sure that people get more views and live tweeting it. I don't even have to say a word.
Let's do it.
Or by the way, if he's got a stream, that's fine too. I don't care. What can I say though? You always try to be the host. That's the funny thing though, is that, we always talk about like promoting stuff. And yes, we do have a book to sell at unhumansbook.com, promo code woke right. But of course, you and I have been doing podcasts and interviews where we explain the calls to action completely.
That is a horrible freeze frame for Jack. Hang on. That's better. Okay. You never want to stick someone with a bad freeze frame. All right. Do I think Jack is hot? He's not my type. Like it's just like it's not like I think that Nick is hotter than Jack, if I'm honest about it, because Nick has a certain swagger that I just find appealing. But I say that as someone who I'm way too old for Nick. Nick is saving himself for marriage to a young Catholic virgin Italian submissive girl, and I respect that. And I'm way too old for him. But I do think Nick is hotter than Jack. I do.
The ideas of turning the tables on the left, doing what is done to us 10 times back at them.
Exactly.
This is basic stuff at the highest level with Trump and Elon, the things that they're doing. And then even at the lower levels, calling for this organizing and these community centers and things like this to be set up in key areas and just wherever people's local areas are. That's perfectly fine.
No,
we don't need
I'm not,
to go and
I am not going to seduce Nick. That's disrespectful. I am respecting Nick's commitment to his future Italian Catholic virgin wife.
get a philosophy degree to understand how to fight communism. And in fact, if that is our road, we're probably going to lose. So Joshua, what do you think? Are you going to try to reach out to this guy?
No, I don't.
I think this video will reach him.
Okay. All right. Let me put it this way. Would you want time lengths? Would you want a specific series of questions, or would you just want to kind of no holds barred go at it?
I was on debate team at university. I don't know if Michael has any formal experience participating in debate directly. So in debate, usually there's one side that gets to make their case, or the other side gets to make the counter case, and then there's the cross-examination, one question the other that can happen. That's one style. I do like
the
when
Yale
there's
format
opportunity for Q&A. Q&A is fun.
I know. I was saying is that known as Yale debate, right?
But there's a number of terms, but yes, this parliamentary debate. That's what I did at university. Yes, formal debates can be off-putting for the same reason that so much of the woke right messaging is off-putting. We'll be blunt, because that's not how normal people communicate. That's not the everyday. We're not talking about so Lysak is a new integralist Nietzschean.
See, Joshua and I are going to get along. Joshua understands the value in communicating in the ways that normal people communicate, not this highfalutin academic stuff that most people have no time for.
Vitalist, pseudo-Gromskyist. That's not how soccer moms are thinking about, gee, what do I say to my son whose teacher just told him that white people are colonizers?
You tell your son that whiteness means capitalism, because the woke left believes that capitalism, which is defined as private property ownership, is responsible for slavery in the United States, slavery being the ownership of people as private property. Slavery then created systemic racism, which is racial disparities created on the basis of race from slavery. When they're talking about whiteness, white supremacy, like systemic racism, the system in systemic racism is capitalism. So it is always a reference to capitalism when you're hearing about like white people or whiteness or any of those things, because it is a reference to systemic racism, and the racism part is not as important as the system part, because it's the system that upholds racism, and they believe that if they get rid of capitalism, that will solve all racial disparities. You then tell your son that colonizer means to take indigenous land and oppress it under the force of capitalism. That is what that term means. It is kind of like a subterm to imperialism, imperialism being the highest form of capitalism, but most of the time they use colonizer or colonization or colonialism, and that means that you've taken indigenous land, which was under the care of the collective indigenous people, and you've imposed the force of capitalism on it to privatize the land. This is why they call Israel the settler colonists, and why they're there, and why the left supports the glorious revolution against the settler colonists, because they believe the settler colonists colonized the indigenous land, and now the Palestinians are taking the land back and decolonize it, which means removing the oppressive force of capitalism. That's what you tell your son.
What do I say? This
Joshua
is a very different
Lysek,
message.
this is fantastic. We're out of time for this segment. Where can people follow you? And more importantly, where can Michael O'Fallon follow you?
He can find me in the DMs. I'm vegetarian, so leave your
Whoa!
In the DMs.
All right. There we go, folks. There we go.
All right. Well, we will hope very strongly that debate happens. And I think that's all I have on the Jack Posobiec, James Lindsay stuff. But guys, we have one more thing to do. I know this is a long stream today, and I'm throwing a lot of stuff out there. But please mount the like button if you appreciate the show so far. We've had our vegetables, and now we're going for dessert. Okay, is everyone ready for dessert? This is the last thing we're going to do today, because we have a video that was posted last night by stepmom Deb Fillman. Stepmom Deb Fillman is best friends with James Lindsay. She runs a YouTube channel called The Reason We Learn. She rants all day, every day on Twitter about everyone that she disagrees with. Stepmom has also been a pain in my ass for several years. After she used my community to recruit people to fund her, and people did, Deb then decided to try to collude with other members of my community in order to steal my work and claim it as her own. And then I called her out on that shit. And then Deb proceeded to go on a 2+ year tirade about how I'm a horrible, evil person. And every time someone tried to work with me, Deb would slide into their DMs and say, if you don't denounce Carlin, then I'm going to denounce you, and I'm going to destroy you, and and all the while that Deb was doing this, she was ranting and raving about me online, spreading smear campaign after smear campaign after smear campaign, and doing all this bullshit. So we like to keep an eye on Deb, because I feel I've earned it. And by the way, Deb, Jeff Charles also says hello, because a couple months ago when Deb was ranting about the fact that a 5-year-old black girl appeared in an ad for Target, and Deb said it was woke to have a 5-year-old black girl appear in an ad on Target, and then Black Twitter got a little pissed off at Deb, because Deb was saying that it was like horrible and wrong for a 5-year-old black girl to appear in an ad for Target. And Black Twitter took offense to this. And then Deb went viral on Twitter to the tune of 5 million views before she privated her account for several days. In the course of that, Deb made an enemy of Jeff Charles, who is one of the coolest people on the internet, and everyone should follow Jeff Charles. Jeff Charles does a great job. Jeff Charles was like, this is bullshit, Deb. And then Deb got pissed off because Jeff Charles is black. And, sometimes he likes to comment on things that are relevant to him. And Jeff Charles didn't like it at all that Deb was talking about the fact that Target shouldn't have a 5-year-old smiling black girl in their ads, because Deb sometimes is a little bit racist. Not racist in the way that the woke mean it. We're talking about actual, Deb doesn't like black people. Deb also doesn't like Arabs. Deb doesn't like anyone that's not Jewish. If we're going to get brass tacks, Deb doesn't like anyone that's not Jewish and not a raging Zionist. That's who Deb likes, because Deb is Jewish. Deb has the Israeli flag in her profile. Deb thinks that everyone who is not Jewish and does not support Israel is a raging anti-Semite. And so when Jeff Charles questioned her, Deb went off on him and blocked him on all this stuff and then complained about him on her channel, which the reason I'm bringing this up is it's kind of directly relevant to the subject of this video that Deb posted. Yeah. Deb doesn't like brown people. It's true. So when Deb posted this video last night called "What is Cry Bullying?" I was like, we have to react to this. We just have to. This is for fun. This is not for work. We've done our work. Now we're going to do fun. And let's see what Deb had to say about cry bullying and how we should perceive cry bullying and what to do about it. It's only 17 minutes long. It's relatively short. We've already been going almost 3 hours. I want to thank everyone who's hung in with me for this long. Let's see what Deb had to say.
Cry bullying is. Have you ever heard of this term? Well, I'm going to attempt to define it for you today and suggest to you, and hopefully some of you are teenagers watching this, why you shouldn't do it. And also to let you know that we're on to you. We see it. You're not fooling anybody. So if you think that, somehow it's not bullying, it is bullying. It is. Because the thing that I'm seeing about the cry bullying is that it's being done in this really twisted way where the people doing it are claiming to be virtuous, claiming that what they're doing is being the bigger people or being.
So I am almost positive that this video is in response to Jack Posobiec calling James Lindsay woke right. Because what the premise that Deb is kind of working, so it is actually kind of relevant to the rest of the stuff we watched. The premise that Deb is working from is that James just wasn't doing anything wrong, and this evil Jack Posobiec came in and started making these claims, and now Jack Posobiec is being a cry bully because James obviously didn't do anything wrong, because she always has to be kissing James's ass, because that's the game that Deb plays.
The good people, and that people who use direct communication are mean. So anyway, what is cry bullying? So cry bullying is when you take a situation, a dispute, an argument, something that one person has with another person within a could be in a friend group, could be in a relationship, whatever. Usually it's in friend groups, okay? Because you have to have somebody to cry to, right? So you see this a lot with teenagers. There's a friend group, people they hang out with, etc. And maybe two of them have a dispute. They have a disagreement. Something goes on between them. And rather than resolving it directly,
exactly, cold water. That's exactly right.
Where, drop it, or they decide we can't be friends anymore and they part.
Loud, pushy Karen is an excellent descriptor for stepmom Deb. And by the way, if you guys are ever interacting with Deb on Twitter, make sure you call her stepmom Deb Philman. You have to say the whole thing. Deb just loves it. And the reason we call her stepmom is because several years ago, when Deb was harassing me every day on the internet, Deb's daughter ran away from home and begged to go live with her father because Deb just couldn't stand, or excuse me, Deb's daughter hated Deb. And so she begged to go, she ran away, and then she was begging to go live with her father because she didn't want to live with Deb anymore. And so as Deb was being a bitch on the internet, she was also complaining about the fact that her daughter ran away and that she was she didn't understand why this was happening. And I was like, I have some idea about why she might not like you. And then we started calling Deb stepmom, because instead of parenting her own children effectively, She was stepmothering the internet.
Ways, but directly say we're never going to agree, and it's a relationship killer, so we can't be friends anymore. And then figuring out how you're going to split up the friend group, or how you're going to, how that's going to go in some kind of direct way, letting people know we're not friends anymore. So what should we do? Okay, but somebody has a dispute, and rather than keeping it between the people who had the dispute to either be resolved peacefully or parting ways, one of the two people decides, I'm going to triangulate. I'm going to try to drive a wedge between the person I'm having a dispute with and everybody else we're friends with by crying. Now, it doesn't have to involve literal tears. It could just be going and complaining and saying they hurt me. But the crying part is they play victim. And very, very often it also involves something called DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse victim offender. So they either preempt.
When Deb and her friends are attacking everyone on the internet and shit talking everyone on the internet and ignoring all facts and information, and what they do is they claim, you're Darvoing me, you're Darvoing me, you're Darvoing me. Darvo is like their favorite fucking thing. Except what they don't realize is they're the ones actually attacking. They're the ones Darvoing. The ironclad law of woke, anti-woke projection. And why I say woke, anti-woke is Deb claims to be anti-woke.
Actively go to the friend group and deny having done something they did and say that the person they're having a dispute with attacked them. So-and-so attacked me. It was so mean. And she said these things. And out of the blue for no reason. I didn't do anything to deserve it. And she totally came to me. And they twist it around to where something maybe they did that sparked a conversation.
As a reminder, how I know Deb is that she came into my community for years. At least, well, no, I won't say, no, it was probably 2 years. She was in my community. I supported her work. I had her on my channel multiple times. The last conversation I had with Deb, I was actually saying, Deb, let me teach you how to package your offering so you can make money doing this stuff on the internet. And I have the DMs to prove this. I thought that Deb and I were friends. I had no beef with Deb until Deb decided to collude with 3 other people in my community to steal my work, claim it as their own, and cut me out of it entirely. And then I found out about it, and I was not happy about it because this is stuff that I had been working on for a year at that point. Reagan remembers this because she was there, and I called their asses out, and I said, you're not stealing my shit, or you can try to steal my shit, but you're not going to be as good at it as I am, so go ahead, give it your best shot, and we'll see what happens. And then when I called them out publicly, they proceeded to privately message dozens of people in my community, lying about me, defaming me, trying to get people to leave my community and go and join Deb's community. There are people in this chat right now who got messages from Deb saying, Carlin did this, that, and the other thing. And it was all bullshit from the very start. And they shared those messages with me, which is how I know this happened. So Deb wants to pretend that she is the innocent victim of my aggression and that she's definitely not a crybaby, when Deb was the one that started all this shit in the first place. And now she runs around the internet. Yet Reagan was one of the people that got those private messages from them. Nick was one of the people who got those private messages from them. And then Deb ran around the internet. I'm a victim. 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 Carlin is so mean. Carlin is so awful. Please, Deb.
Between them and the other person turns into
exactly
crap. I might be held accountable for this really shitty thing that I did. I'm going to go to the rest of the friends and preempt.
But no, these assholes planted hit pieces on me all over the internet, painting me as the cry bully, when in fact they were the ones that fucked me over and then defamed me 19 ways from Sunday for years. But it all started when Deb colluded with other people in my community to steal my work. I found out about it. I called her ass on the carpet for it, and she had a massive fucking meltdown and started messaging lies to everyone. Exactly what she just defined as a cry bully, Deb did to me.
You know, and make it and put it back on them. So that's very common. It doesn't all cry bullying doesn't always involve Darvo, but it's pretty common. But no matter, it involves one person in a dispute involving people who are not involved in the dispute, crying victim to them, and then trying to basically smear campaign or get the friend group on the cry bully side to reject the person they're in a dispute with.
And by the way, Deb was successful to a certain extent. Deb and Adrian and Justice and the narcissists that will not be named were successful to a certain extent. They did actually get a bunch of people to leave my community. Their goal was to destroy my work, to be very clear. However, because I'm more creative than them, and because the ideas originally came from me in the first place, and because I don't give a fuck, I just hunkered down and I started doing whatever I was going to do. And I built my platform, which is much larger than Deb's platform. And most of my community ended up sticking around because they knew what the deal was anyway. And so although they were successful in a certain extent and did absolutely cost me money and did absolutely defame me on the internet and had all these fucking hit pieces planted on me, ultimately I won, because today my platform is still bigger than all of them put together. My work is more impactful than all of them put together. And so the lesson that I want people to learn is never let bitches like this prevent you from doing what you want to do, because they may be able to slow you down. They may be able to hurt you. They may be able to make life very inconvenient for a little while. But eventually, karma is going to bite them in the ass. And that's exactly what's happened. Justice is no longer on the internet at all. Adrian has not grown. Like, Adrian is talking to like 2 people on the internet every single day. The narcissist that will not be named, he pretends he's grown and he's doing all this stuff. And in fact, he's doing nothing. He's creating no content. He has no platform. The only person that he has interaction with is Deb, basically. And Deb has grown a little bit. Deb got involved with Moms for Liberty. Deb sucked James Lindsay's cock. Figuratively, not literally. I don't think Deb would actually do that, because Deb is a prudish bitch that would never do that. But she did ingratiate herself to him. So Deb has a little bit of a following. Deb has a small baby YouTube channel that gets less views on a video than I have live viewers on most days. But the moral of the story is that none of this paid off for them. And they didn't get me to shut up. And that's what you have to know if you ever find yourself in this type of situation with this type of person, which is fuck them, do whatever you want to do, and just persevere. Get through the storm. That's all you need to do. Get through the storm. It sucks going through the storm. It really, really sucks. But you just need to get to the other side. And when you get to the other side, you get your just desserts. Yup, Sin remembers. She also told people that if they followed me, she would ruin them. She told people that if they worked with me, she would ruin them. All that stuff. That all happened.
Cut them off, end the friendship, criticize them, pick on them, you know, whatever. And it's very hard to detect sometimes, because the nature of the communication is tears, or like, I can't believe it, you guys. I'm so hurt.
Larkin Rose follows me on Twitter. I don't know that much about him, to be honest, but he does follow me.
This person did this to me, and it's out of nowhere, you know, like no context, no evidence. I'm being picked on, I'm being harassed, I'm being bullied, and the group is like, oh my god, we believe people. They come to us, they complain about things, we believe them. It must be true. They're saying they were hurt, they're telling us these things. Oh my god, right? And it gets believed right away, or the cry bullying wouldn't work. So they go and, you know, if it doesn't work with the first person, they go to another person, but they wait until they find people are like lapping it up, like,
just
oh my
like
God.
You did, Deb. Literally just like you did.
The more dramatic they make it, the more likely it is to be believed, strangely enough. And then, rather than check, is this true? Did this, you know, going back to the original person, did you really do this? Did you say this? Like, no skepticism, no curiosity. It's like, this is so cool. It's like a drama. They gobble it up, and the immediate reaction is to turn on the person who is not even there. Not even there usually, or being talked about behind their back, and
So
and at
true.
no point did any of the people being
So
cried
true.
to say, yeah, that, what? Did that really happen? Like, why should we believe you? We're friends with that person too. Like, isn't this something you should be talking to them about?
Mhm.
This doesn't involve us.
Yep.
Why are you bringing this to us? What do you want us to do about it? Like, what are we supposed to do? Instead of doing that, they go all in. Oh, yes, you poor victim. And now why would they do that? Why does cry bullying work? Where does this come from? Well, where does virtue come from these days? It comes from being a victim and giving and listening to a victim, including a victim, making a victim feel like they belong, embracing a victim, showing empathy for victims. The most
Doesn't Deb absolutely seem like she would never, ever, 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 ever be a raging Karen to anyone in her life? Doesn't Deb seem like she would never be a cry bully in her life? Isn't she projecting just innocence and purity? Yeah. Yeah, Deb is saying that empathy is bad. No wonder her daughter ran away. She's raving like a Karen. She looks like she would call the police on you. Total Karen energy, Deb. This is Amber Heard in 20 years. Yep, Deb loved to call me Amber Heard, but in fact, no, that was the ironclad law of Deb projection.
powerful thing you can be in America today is a victim. Did you know? I mean, what's a better way to get a bunch of people on your side to get a lot of power in a friend group? This person's mean, bad things happen. Now, don't hear me saying that bad things never happen to people. Don't hear me saying that everybody who goes crying to their friends is always a liar. But there's some telltale signs. What are they?
What are they, Deb?
You
Lay
hear
it on
nothing
us.
from the other party. They're coming straight to you. You either weren't there, you didn't hear it yourself, you didn't see it yourself. It's all happened somewhere behind the scenes where you didn't see it. They don't come with any kind of evidence. They're not like, look what they did.
Yep.
And even if they do, there's no context. Like, it's like, look at this horrible thing they did, and you just go blow right by what was the beginning of that conversation. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that was after 2 hours of being.
Oh, so exactly like what you did to me, Deb, when you tried to steal my shit and claim it as your own. And then you went around telling everyone, Carlin's a big meanie because she called me out and I'm going to write this public letter. Deb wrote a whole 1.5-page statement denouncing me publicly. Carlin is a big meanie. Well, Deb, you tried to steal my shit. You stole from my community. You were emailing everyone and their mother trying to destroy everything that I was doing. Carlin is so mean to me. And if you work with Carlin, I'm going to denounce you too. And I'm going to destroy your work too. Yeah, Deb, you know what? Do you know who doesn't threaten to destroy someone's work? People who are like, people who are, only cry bullies do that, Deb. Only cry bullies will DM anyone that is following me, anyone that's interacting with me, anyone that's doing projects with me, anyone. Deb literally got pissed off at people retweeting me. Deb got pissed off that Jeff Charles was retweeting me. Deb got pissed off that Dan Kleinman was retweeting me. That was considered a gross offense against Deb. And she DM'd and said, yeah, how dare you retweet that? How you dare you support her? I'm going to destroy you. And I have the receipts, Deb. You know I do. Deb is just annoyed that she got caught in the act of being a Karen because people were sick of her shit.
You know, whatever, harassed, and they come forth with something. So the point is, they just show up with a pretty serious accusation of harm or bullying or, you know, harassment or something like that. No evidence whatsoever. They just say it's happening with so much emotion.
It's a good thing I have screenshots that I have presented in previous streams, and if Deb wants to make this a federal issue, I will go back and find those screenshots again.
And so much certainty. And when you ask them if they tried to talk directly to the person to resolve it, they say things like, well, I tried, but they wouldn't listen, and they don't care, blah, 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 blah.
I always
And that
do.
doesn't really align with what you know about the other person. Like, something doesn't fit. But here's the final test. So, no evidence. You ask them if they talk to the other person, and they say things that sound out of character for the person they're talking about, because remember, you're friends with both. And the last one is the real kicker.
True.
When you tell them you don't want to get involved, when you tell them, like, I don't know, I'm going to stay out of it, you know, whatever, they either get mad at you and be like, fine, I guess you're not really a very loyal friend after all. Because after all, it's very reasonable for you to say you don't want to get involved.
That's literally what Deb did when she was DMing people demanding they denounce me. And people would say, Deb, I'm not going to get involved in this. And she'd be like, fuck you. I'm publicly denouncing you. And I'm telling everyone that you're a horrible person that is a pedophile apologist. That literally happened. Oh my God. Deb, we all know that you've done this. Deb is like 50 something years old. But she's still in high school.
Or when you say, why are you coming to me? I'm not involved. They do the same thing. So it's like, whether it's, I'm not involved, don't talk to me, or why are you coming to me? And they don't give you some like legitimate reason. I mean, there really isn't. Can you think of one? I can't think of one. Why they're coming to you and not the other person. You're all in a friend group together. And you might be saying, well, I don't get it. What if they need support? Whatever. Is that really the right group of people to go to for support? Mutual friends? If you have a group of mutual friends and you have a problem with one of them, why would you expect a large degree of support from those mutual friends? That person is imposing on you. They're saying, pick my side. Take my side in a dispute you're not party to, you were present for,
like you did, Deb,
and you really
with,
don't
like,
even have any
dozens
evidence
of people
for. Like, you don't even know that it actually happened at all. So isn't that kind of an imposition to ask for your support? It is. Generally speaking, the bigger person thing to do is to seek that support outside the friend groups. Anybody else, parents, another friend who doesn't have the mutual friends. I mean, even random people on social media, like anybody for whom it would not be a selfish imposition to say, I want to put you in the middle of this dispute. I'm triangulating. Woe is me, pick my side. And if you don't, you're a big bad meanie, just like the person I'm complaining about. Somebody trying to triangulate with you is a bully. Direct, responsible, mature people don't do that.
We agree, Deb. Then why do I have dozens of screenshots of you literally doing everything that you're saying to me? Because normal people don't do this, Deb. Normal people don't do this. Yes. Isn't that funny? Deb sounds like she's very angry here. Deb sounds very triggered here. Now, we've watched a couple Deb videos, and generally this is her tone of voice. But she does seem to be a little triggered. Deb, did karma bite you in the ass recently in a way that we're not aware of yet? Here's what I'm wondering. Because Deb had this karma coming to her. If it hasn't happened yet, she still has it coming to her. Deb, is the reason that you're making this video about something that you have provably done to me for years? Is the reason that you're making this video that someone did this to you that we don't know about yet? Is the reason that you did this video that you ended up in a situation where someone did to you what you did to me for years? And now you're a little triggered by the fact that someone did to you what you did to me for years? Because this is a little unhinged, Deb. It really, I mean, look at Deb's face. Deb's about to growl. Obviously, there's something going on that we don't know about yet, but that we'll figure out eventually, Deb. Obviously, something is going on in Deb's life that maybe she's working out some feelings on the internet about, because this is just too angry. Deb is literally foaming at the mouth. I'm not going to forget about this, Deb. I'm going to figure this out. It's not going to take a lot of my energy. I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to figure this out. But I'm going to figure this out eventually, because I'm going to pay attention to your tweets. I'm going to pay attention to your replies, because I know you can't help yourself, Deb. You're going to tweet something eventually that's going to tell us what happened. And then I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to figure out who did it. And whoever did it is my new best friend. And we're going to have them on the channel and they're going to talk about it. Okay, maybe not that far. Maybe I'm not going to do that, but maybe I will. If the person who fucked Deb over wants to get in touch with me, I don't even care if I've blocked you in the past. This is a message to whoever Deb is pissed off about. If you know me and you're watching this video because I'm posting a clip on the internet about exposing Deb Philman for being an obvious cry bully, and you want to share whatever you did to Deb to cause this video to be made, you can DM me. Even and if I've banned you for some reason, figure out another way to get in touch with me. You can get in touch with someone. You can come by the chat and chat in. You can leave a comment. Give me a way to get in touch with you. I will keep you anonymous. You don't have to tell me your real name or anything. But if the person that caused Deb to make this video is out there and you want to talk about what happened, you let me know. If we've had beef in the past, it's water under the bridge. I don't care. Okay? I'm letting whatever it is, I'll let it go. If you can tell me why Deb is making this video, if anyone has any information, I want to know it. All right? I will make time for this.
They don't go behind the back of the person they have to dispute with, first of all, like ever. Okay, they go directly to that person. And to the extent that they do, they go to people totally outside the circle. Anyone coming inside the circle, you should immediately be suspect. Why me? Why us? Why are you telling us? Now, you might say, but what if they're trying to warn us because this person did something really horrible? Again, they'll have receipts. If they did something so awful that they're actually trying to prevent you guys from getting hurt,
Deb's going to have a heart
they should
attack.
have no problem providing receipts. Look here, they said this, they did this, they did that, they did like, oh, they hit me, that bruises, what? Okay. And if it's so dire, call the police. Don't go to your friend group. But that's not usually what happens. When cry bullying, it's just a triangulation. That's what cry bullying
Now
is.
Deb looks like she's going to cry.
And I don't care
Why does
how
Deb look like she's going
desperate
to
you are
cry?
to feel like a good person. Or I'm going to be there for my friend. That's not what being there looks like. If you genuinely care about people, you shouldn't want to enable them as they practice their manipulation techniques. And it is a manipulation technique. They're putting you in a bad spot, forcing you to make a choice, or at least go behind somebody's back and talk about them when they're not there, about things you weren't privy to. And they are trying not to resolve a problem with that other person, but to actually make the problem bigger, to spread it around, probably.
You don't say.
So that the person they have a dispute with has a problem, has a bigger problem.
You don't say, Deb.
They're actually trying to claim the friend group for themselves, which isn't very nice to you. If you're
Deb, you know what would be more productive than working out your feelings on the internet? Maybe you could just drive out into the woods and scream at whatever happened, because we're going to figure out what happened eventually. Maybe you could just, get it out the old-fashioned way. Not everything needs to be a video on the internet, Deb.
the one getting cried to. So don't be an enabler like that. It doesn't make you nice. It doesn't make you empathetic.
Hey, bot, we need you, and I'll send you a screenshot of this later. We need you to make a certificate for Stony Baloney for getting mentioned, for getting a mention from Jack Posobiec on his show. And I got a great screenshot. I'm going to send you for it. Yes. Last night I was validated by Nick Rekieta's stream, and tonight I'm even further validated by Deb.
Okay? If you really care about the person, say, you need to go talk to that person, not to me. You need to resolve your issues with the person you have a dispute with, not to me. You're putting me in a tough spot. I don't want to make a choice. Don't do
Yeah,
this
it's a
to
good
me.
screenshot.
And I wasn't there, and I didn't see the information, and I'm not going to do it. Now, you might be asking, well, Deb, what if I do see evidence? What if somebody brings me hard evidence of abuse? I see text messages with like nasty abuse. I see all kinds of things, like all kinds of stalker level emails, blah, 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 blah. You know, then what should I do? Well, that's a totally different story, isn't it? I just said,
Talking
if you
about
see
me.
evidence, if you ask for evidence and they go, yeah.
See, now Deb is talking about me because the person that started all this shit claimed I was stalking him for years when in fact what I was doing was trying to get him to act like an adult and to stop being ridiculous on the internet and to handle something in private that he was working out his feelings for 3 years on the internet publicly. And for that, I was accused of stalking. When he was talking about me all day, every day, doing all of this bullshit, releasing private messages, taking things out of context, twisting them to be things they didn't mean, doxing my friends, multiple of my friends, multiple times to get himself attention on the internet. And now he has no attention on the internet. And that must be very sad for him because he's a raging narcissist and he needs attention in order to live, which is why he's trying so very hard. The other day, he was just tweeting about me. I haven't spoken to this person in almost 3 years, maybe even more than that. I don't even know. But Deb claims that because I tried to handle the situation privately, she was stalking him. And this is proof she was stalking him. No, I wasn't. I was trying to handle the situation privately, which Deb doesn't understand.
Let me show you. I'm not trying to get you involved in something to like take my side. I'm like genuinely scared for my safety. I'm scared for your safety. This person is cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. Look what they did. Look at this. Look at that. Look at the other one. I mean, that's not cry bullying. Duh. That's just crying. That's like a cry for help.
Deb.
And then, of course, it's obvious. But it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about big crocodile tears. I'm talking about I'm gonna kill my life.
That's a reference to me. That's a reference to me.
And you don't see anything. And everything they're saying.
That's also a reference to me because when Deb and her friends were harassing me every day online it was about 1.5 years of that stuff. I had to deal with it every fucking day. After they doxed my second friend to millions of views on the internet, I was like, fuck this shit. I can't do this anymore. And there was like a brief where I took a couple weeks off and I was really in a bad place because I was clinically depressed at this point. And I did a stream saying, I'm really having some bad thoughts. I'm not there anymore and no one needs to worry. But like at the time, it was really bad. But it was because of what Deb and her friends were doing to me. I mean, I think she's just an evil cunt. I don't know that she's a sociopath specifically, but she's an evil, self-righteous cunt that is out for herself and only out for herself. She doesn't care about any of this, really. All Deb wants is to be able to make money on the internet by being famous on the internet, and that's all she really cares about.
Is like wildly out of character for the person they're talking about. Because remember, you're mutual friends. I said it before. That's on you. That's on you to decide what happens next.
But I think
Don't
someone did
play
this
along.
to Deb.
Because if you play along with a crybaby, guess what you are? Yeah, you're a stooge. You're a flying monkey. You are gonna be on the receiving end.
Oh, look at that! If you play along with a cry bully, you are a stooge and a flying monkey. How many people in this chat had Deb literally call them a flying monkey? Did that happen to anyone that's here? I'm pretty sure it did. How many people in this chat had Deb literally call them a flying monkey because they wouldn't denounce me? Did that happen to anyone here? Yes, Tayton, this is exactly the point I'm making. Yeah, that's exactly what Deb calls my audience all the time. And sometimes Deb calls them that specifically by name because they want, like, they go after Bot all the time. Bot is like one of their number one targets because Bot is loyal to me and Bot will never leave me. And I know that. Yup, they called Nick a flying monkey. Yup. Uh-huh. It just really seems, Deb, like this is all coming from somewhere. Huh.
Cry bullying one of these days, or you're going to become a cry bully yourself. You're going to become an agent of the bully. There's really no two ways about it. You don't get to be Switzerland. If you are in a situation where cry bullying is going on and you are part of the triangle that they're coming to and asking for support, and you play along thinking, I can be friends with both people, I can be neutral, I'm here to tell you, you can't.
And that is how Deb justifies emailing people saying, if you don't denounce Carlin, I'm going to destroy you because you are taking her side. And that means you are an accomplice and a flying monkey to the cry bullying. And therefore, because you're not taking my side, you are taking the wrong side and you are an agent of the cry bully. And therefore, I'm going to denounce you publicly and I'm going to make sure everyone knows that you are an agent and a flying monkey of the cry bully. Literally, Deb, you fucking did this. We all know you did this. You did this to some of the people in the fucking chat. I don't think that's a good idea. See, Gloria, it's all for the best. Just stay on Instagram.
That's not going to last because the person who's been gossiped about and accused of something they didn't do isn't going to trust you if you stay friends with that person. They're not going to trust you. Why would they? That person, the cry bully, is effectively bullying them. They're trying to poison your friendship. What is the basis of your relationship with the cry bully now? Providing validation for their fantasy that they're a victim. That's the basis of your friendship.
Gloria's doing great slime videos.
Okay. So they're not going to trust you. And the person who cried to you and is expecting your validation is never going to, it's a bottomless pit of need.
Wait, really? Deb just posted something at 5:55 p.m. about an 8th grader talking about queer liberation and tagged James, Logan, and others, but only screenshots and just calling it meet your worst nightmare. We'll look at that in a second, Angel, rather. Thank you. Gloria does make slime. She makes homemade slime and then she posts videos about it.
Going to need constant reassurance that you support them and not the other person. They're not going to let you be friends with both. That's why they started this, to end your friendship with the first person. So you're either going to end up joining them in finding fault with this person to make yourself feel better about what you're doing. That's the most common thing that I see happening, especially with teenagers. It's like, well, you were mean to her. Well, she didn't like it. Well, she cried. The outcome is that her feelings are hurt. You must have done something wrong. Context drop, doesn't matter. So you can still feel good about yourself. That doesn't make you a good person. Actually makes you pretty much of a shit. And you're no better than the cry bully.
Yep.
And this person isn't going to trust you anymore, even if you manage to pull it all off. So why do it? I'm not suggesting you choose this person. Maybe you choose to get out of the friend group at all. I'm just telling you. There's no good outcome.
I'm
There's
just telling you.
There's no neutral with a cry bully.
You don't do what I want you to do. I'm going to denounce you, okay?
Or you end up not in their friend group. And count your lucky stars. Because it will be you eventually, unless you literally become one of them. It's contagious. So anyway,
correct, Deb. We don't trust you, Deb.
That is the most common relational bullying today.
You're not
especially
trustworthy.
Amongst teenagers, but also amongst adults. But it's really prevalent amongst teenagers.
You're talking about yourself, Deb. We know that.
When they listen to a cry bully.
Yep.
And it's absolutely toxic.
We know.
It's poisonous. Please advise your children to think about these issues and learn about triangulation and manipulation because it's happening every single day.
All right. Thank you, Deb, for that enlightening video about everything that you did to me that you now don't want responsibility for. And again, I think that Deb posted that because someone's done it to her. And I'm going to figure out who. I'm going to figure out what happened. And it's entirely possible that Deb could be pulling the same op with someone else right now that she pulled on me. Because once you do it one time, you're going to do it again. And I'm going to figure this out, Deb. I'm not going to fucking forget about this. In fact, let's just take a quick gander at Deb's Twitter. Deb thinks she blocked my sock account the other day, but no, Deb. I have like 8,000 sock accounts. Deb, Israeli flag in the profile. Israeli flag in the profile because, of course. Let's see. Oh, she's retweeting James Lindsay, blah, blah, blah. Here's what Angel Eyes was saying. Meet your worst nightmare. What's this? What is queer liberation? Queer liberationists believe in anti-assimilation, celebrating what our community different rather than acting as if we're not queer, building queer community through organizing and mutual aid. Organizing and mutual aid are socialist things. Uplifting queer art, taking an intersectional, anti-hierarchical stance. That means against capitalism because they believe capitalism is the ultimate hierarchy. Towards queer social movements. For many queer people, including myself, anarchism is a necessary part of queer liberation. Oh, this is an anarcho-communist that's going to be involved in all the anarcho-communist literature that Deb doesn't know about. As long as violence and domination exist, that means capitalism, they will repress queer people and force us into assimilation. Queer liberationist goals is to build solidarity, that means comrades, within the queer community and dismantle cis heteropatriarchy capitalism in the prefigurative sense rather than simply passing laws or changing minds. Oh, look! Queer core, a punk revolution. So she's deep in the queer anarchist movement. Does Deb mention any of that? Does Deb even know about that? No. Let's see, what else? What else has Deb been doing? Let's look in the replies. Guys, just in case you don't know, you can look in the replies on Twitter, and they're honestly usually more useful for figuring people out than the actual tweets, because the replies are where people show their true colors. Let's see if Deb's been doing anything interesting. Oh, she's basically just retweeting James Lindsay. This is a show that Deb does with the narcissist that will not be named. Because Deb is his only friend now. Let's see. All right, it looks like Deborah isn't really up to anything interesting. Oh, there it is. What is a cry bully? Oh, he's a cry bully. See Deb Philman. What is this about? My favorite part of this article written by Jeremy Jojola is how he says it was one mean tweet someone put out that ended his Twitter career, when in reality he was a toxic person harassing and doxing people he hated, like Forest Mommy rules. Deb shilling her cry bully video. Oh, look at this. This is Deb's. This is the perfect place to end on. This is Deb's understanding of the left. That trans people are afraid of a biology book, that communists are afraid of an economics book, that BLM people are afraid of a statistics book, and that pro-Palestine people are afraid of a history book. This is Deb's expert opinion about the far left. This is it. Right here. In a nutshell. Does everyone know? Everyone understands why this is dumb, right? Because queer and trans people are not afraid of biology books. Communists are not afraid of economics books. BLM people are not afraid of statistics books. And pro-Palestine protesters are not afraid of history books. It has nothing to do with any of that. They're all just against capitalism. That's it. That's it. It's a dumb meme. Yeah. Also, there's no understanding that these are all the same. No recognition at all that these are all the same people. Anyway, we've been streaming for 3.5 hours. We got through a lot today. I appreciate it, guys. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. I'm not doing a late night stream tonight. I'm going to go spend some time with my husband tonight. I might even get laid. Maybe if I'm very, very lucky. Anyway, that's what I'm doing. If you want to support the work I'm doing, I will probably be posting on the Substack tonight as well, because I can't just spend all night like having sex with my husband. I'm gonna do work too. Probably. I work way too. My husband goes to bed early. I stay up to like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, after I spend some time with some quality time with my husband, with the cameras off. Yeah, married. That's okay. You can still be my manservant. You can still be my internet boyfriend, or like one of my internet boyfriends. I don't have any internet boyfriends. I'm kind of single on the internet right now, and I kind of like it that way. But you can still hang around and simp for me. I don't mind. I'm taking a break from internet dating. But simps can stay. I don't mind. You can still say nice things about me and make me smile and all that stuff, and I'll laugh. I'll give you, oh, Josh Randall. You're my favorite, Josh Randall. I'll give you that. It's okay. I'll give you that. Anyway, if you want to support the work I'm doing, head over to my Substack, Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up for $8 a month or $80 a year. You get access to a variety of perks when you do that. See, this is why Josh Randall plays along. We love you, bro. You're welcome here. We like you. Also, make sure you head over to my other Substack, which is speaksocialist.substack.com. This is where I am working on my next book, but you get to see all the drafts of the book. You get to help me write the book. You get to give me feedback on the book. I'm doing audio versions of the book. And basically, I'm writing a dystopian, it's going to read like a dystopian fiction, but everything in it's going to be real. And it's going to be a way for people to approach what's happening in the world in a much more, approachable way that is fun and engaging and a little bit terrifying at times, if we're honest about it. But I'm really excited about this project. Check it out. It's speaksocialist.substack.com. I will be back tomorrow. Please mount the like button on the way out the door. Please make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you are not already. I appreciate you all for being here today. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.